Now you go inside and apologize to your Aunt May. And we go inside. Aunt May's like, Peter, it's so good to see you. Uncle Ben, leave him alone. I was fine. And it's like, shut up, May. I told you to fucking shut up. Shut the fuck up. He needs to learn respect. Apologize to your Aunt May. And he's like, Aunt May, I'm really serious. You can't do anything wrong, Peter. I love you. You're perfect. Hello, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on my video, and I wanted to let you know not only do I create content on my YouTube channel here, Class in a Glass, but I'm also on Twitch where I play single-player games, multiplayer games. I do movie reviews, cartoon reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, it would be a big help if you can check out my Patreon, where you can gain access to audio commentaries, reactions, and the ability to submit questions for my podcasts and videocasts. And all that content can be found in the links below. In the meantime, enjoy the video. But now, my friends, we gotta get to the piece de la resistance, as they say in France. We gotta get to the good shit. I think that's what that means, Chad. We gotta get to the good shit, Chad. I am doing a scene by scene breakdown to Mark Webb's, which I thoroughly believe the reason why he was hired for this movie is because his last name is Webb. Mark Webb's The Amazing Spider-Man, the 2012 Spider-Man reboot, chat. That's what's on the dock for today. I will be doing a number of Spider-Man films in the next couple of weeks. Going to be doing Spider-Man 2 tomorrow, so tune in for that as well. The duology, if you will, the Andrew Garfield duology. And then later on this month, probably the week of the release of Spider-Man No Way Home, I will be doing Into the Spider-Verse, Homecoming, and Far From Home, and then leading into eventually, chat, my review of Spider-Man No Way Home. So it should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for that. But, chat, before we continue on, I have to ask you a very important question. That question being, how many of you have seen the 2012 The Amazing Spider-Man? I am very curious. He did direct 500 Days of Summer, which is a great movie. I'll talk about that during my audio and video commentary. Hamilton Burger, I saw it in theaters. I hated it. We know Hamilton Burger's opinion on it. There you go. Sierra says, me. Elisa says, me, Lakota. And we're going to get more Spider-Man. That's true. That's right. A new trilogy on maybe the college years. I guess we'll find out. Never time we see voice. I did not. Here's yours. I think it's all right. I think the cast does a pretty good job. The set pieces are well done, and I love James Horner's score. But there's a lot of issues, which you'll get to. I will. Drum saw it in theaters. I really enjoyed it. Says, okay, so we got a mixed bag in here, chap. Hey, Berserker, never saw it. And Xavier, I don't remember too much from it. I've seen it the most out of all the Spider-Man movies. It's extremely nostalgic for me. Okay. Axel, have not seen it. It didn't look good to me. I like this. No, we have a good diverse group of people here, chat. Those that liked it, those that didn't, those are kind of mixed on it, chat. For myself, I did see this in theaters. Like, I've only seen this movie twice. In theaters, and when I did my audio video commentary for the movie a couple days ago. And I will say, listen, I'll speak to the positives at first. I think the casting of Andrew Garfield is like, oh, you know what? That's smart. He's a kid. He's an actor. He could totally pull off Peter Parker Spider-Man. When he was initially cast, I'm like, hey, cool. Yes, he looks a little old for the role, but hey, so did Tobey Maguire. They're clearly casting older. That's just what they typically do at this time. I was like, you know what? I'm sure that's good casting. Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy. I love that. I thought that was great. A respected British thespian of Risa Fons as Dr. Kurt Connors. It's like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. I could definitely see him in that role. I like the Lizard a lot from the comics. Kind of like very werewolf-esque, dealing with this thing inside of him he's constantly fighting against. I'm like, we're gonna get a nice intimate Spider-Man story. This is good. But I think the problem with the movie, chat, is, it's multifaceted. Number one, it makes the mistake of retelling a story we're already very intimately familiar with. This is what I was talking about, actually, over the last couple of days. It's been following my streams, whether it be on DT Gameplay, my own channel, and that it's redoing the origin. Even though that the film famously marketed itself as, you're going to see the story that was never told, you're still telling us the same story that we saw, which is the origin of Spider-Man. It's like, yes, they do kind of dip their toes into the whole corporate espionage angle with Peter's parents, who are secret agents or secret agent scientists. I mean, in the comics, they either worked for the CIA or they were S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, depending on which iteration of Spider-Man you're reading. But they were secret agents. They may or may not have died on a mission. And then, Uncle Ben and May raced him. And then there it is. And the history, and then you know all the history after that, chat. That movie kind of explores that, but to me, not enough. Like, I would have liked if they leaned into that more, specifically the corporate espionage and Oscorp and Peter's parents' involvement with that and all these weird fucked up experiments with animals and insects and lizards. Like, okay, that's cool, making weapons. Like, do that instead of just doing the origin again, because a lot of this movie, chat, like the first hour of this film is just the origin again. This is a 2 hour and just slightly over 2 hour movies. Maybe it's like two hours and six or so minutes, right? I think with the credits, it's like 2 hours and 12 minutes or something. But when the first half of your movie is pretty much just the origin, the villain doesn't really show up until like an hour 15. It's like, Jesus, the lizard, full transformed lizard when he's attacking the Brooklyn Bridge or the Queensboro Bridge or one of those fucking bridges, in New York. It's not until the hour and 15-minute mark. So already I'm like, okay, I'm just seeing the same shit that I've seen before, not done as well, And I have to wait for the big reveal of the villain at the past the halfway point. That's a big problem with me. When you think of like the Raimi film, even though I've issued the Raimi films, as you guys know, Goblin and Ock and Sandman and all those other ones, New Goblin, they were there pretty quickly. They got there pretty quickly within that half hour mark, 40 minute mark. It's like, okay, shit, they're here, they're doing shit. That's cool. And I like that. Like, it takes a while for this movie to get going, and you're already following things you've seen before. Again, but just not done as well. The one thing I think the movie handles spectacularly in great fashion is the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. It probably helped that Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were a couple at the time. They were, they had a romance, if you will, and that translates very well in the film. Like, there's even certain things that I just noticed rewatching it so recently, in that they're very physical and very handsy, which is like typically people who are couples are, who are in an intimate relationship, they are. Whereas I think of like the Maguire and Kristen Dunst romance, like I never really liked how they handled Peter Parker and the MJ romance in the Raimi trilogy. I just felt it was like a really kind of weird, toxic relationship with MJ being selfish most of the time. And Peter just being so put upon. Like here, I like the back and forth. I like the flirting. I like how they're kind of starting over each other's words. I mean, it feels like a high school romance between two people who have cared about each other for quite some time. It felt, that's the best aspect of it. It felt real. It felt really good. Anytime they're on screen together and they're sharing an intimate moment, the movie is at its height. It's succeeding. When they're not on screen, then it's like, I don't care. I'm just not liking this. I'm not liking the villain or the lizard's plan. He goes from, I want to, grow my arm back to, everyone's going to be lizard people. You're all going to be lizard people and like it. And I'm like, I don't want to be a lizard person. He's like, shut up. You're going to be a lizard person. I'm like, okay. And what would have been cool is, we're going to see a whole bunch of lizard people. Not really, which would have been fucking awesome if Spider-Man fights like a lizard army. That's not what happens. It's implied. It's implied that's what's going to happen, but then it doesn't. And then we get kind of a lackluster third act and then a teaser for something that never even happened. Like building towards something. Yeah, so what we get is just kind of for the most part, an occasionally sweet-natured, but just boring, kind of uninspired origin film for me. Clearly there are people who actually do like this movie. Who grew up with it. Maybe this was their first Spider-Man film. This is the one that they saw in theaters for the first time. And so I understand that. I get that. But for myself, I just, I didn't really particularly care for it. I don't think it's the worst Spider-Man film in the across the board. I think there are definitely weaker ones. But it just feels like, well, that happened. We're going to build towards something. It felt like a movie that we're setting up all the chess pieces into a game we never even got to start. And so that kind of feels very disappointing. Hardball, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Lizard will try to turn the other villains. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. The Lizard's like, hey, Norman, Otto, you want to be lizard people? And they're like, no. No, we don't want to be fucking. He's like, you're going to love it, though. It's great being a lizard person. That would be amazing. Oh, my God. If that is his fucking plan, no way, it's just to turn everyone to lizard people again, I will love it. And the villains are like, you gotta fucking stop. You gotta let that go, man. No one wants to be a lizard person, but I want to be. It's like, you can be that. You can be a lizard person, okay, Kurt? But none of us want to be. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, the next phase, the MCU is just building to everyone being lizards. It's like, yes, he has found success. I'm curious, though, because, you know, in the No Way Home, this is interesting to me. It's like strange. Again, he might be more specific later on. It could be just how it's said in the trailer. We don't really know the context of it. But he says all these characters die to Spider-Man. That's their fate. Lizard does not die at the end of this movie. Actually, he's one of the few villains not to die. Him and, like, Sandman survived the Raimi trilogy. He was it. Everyone else died, and Lizard survives this film. And then the next one, I guess only Dane DeHaan survives, I believe. Or maybe Rhino, he survives too. But, so I'm wondering, like, did he die, like, later on? Did he get fucking shanked in prison? Like, I'm not sure, Chad. Yeah, I mean, definitely, just, like, the context is probably more specific, and they changed the verbiage around and stuff, so I'm sure there's more to it. It's just a cool line for the trailer. And it is. It works very well. But oh well, Chad. Yeah, back to the film itself. It's again, when it came out, it got like mixed. It got kind of like mixed reviews. Not like overly negative. I mean, I don't know how the film has been received. Maybe it's gotten better. Maybe it's been more well received the years later. Or maybe with Amazing Spider-Man 2. I remember when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, people were like, yeah, fuck this. People were upset about that movie. This one, I felt like either you like it or you don't. You know, maybe it's improved over time. It's the public opinion on it. It made a lot of money though. It didn't make as much, I believe, as Spider-Man 3 or even the first one. Maybe it was even just under Spider-Man 2, but it made $758 million. So it did make a lot of money, Chad. It was nothing to sneeze at. It did do commercially very well, and it fucking sold action figures and toys and shit and everything. So I'll give it all the respect that it deserves. And, of course, they then greenlit a sequel based on the success of this film. They actually did it relatively quickly. Like within 2 years. They had, Spider-Man 2. And The Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2014. And then, well, we know what happened with that one, chap. But kind of give you a brief background in regards to that part of the film. But now, Chad, we got to go ahead and get to the nitty-gritty details, chat. The scene by scene breakdown. We start with a little Peter Parker, chat, and this kid doesn't know how to play hide and seek. He's struggling really hard. We see Whittle Peter. He looks like he's, 5 years old, and he's doing 1, 2, 3. Okay, ready or not, here I come. And he's searching this house, this big old house, and looking for his dad or something, Richard Parker, Chad, notable Oscorp scientist Richard Parker. And he sees a pair of shoes behind a curtain, and it's like, well, those are my father's shoes. He's clearly behind there. And he goes over there, Chad, reveals the curtain, and a fucking broom with a hat on it falls down. But it's like, who set that up? Did the dad set that up? Did the dad do that? I don't know, because you think, oh, the dad's playing the game, he's tricking Peter. It's like, I get it. But then the dad comes, he's like, Peter, we gotta go. And he's like, oh, what's going on, Dad? He's like, you don't understand. It's set up for another movie we'll never see. And so, he got his wife, chat. I don't know what her name is. Geez. I'm gonna call her Mary. I'm gonna call her Mary, chat. I'm gonna call her Richard and Mary Parker. I actually don't know what Peter's mother's name is. Can anyone help me out there? I don't fucking know. But I assume Richard and wife need to take little Peter Parker over to his uncle's house. I will say the person that they did get to play Richard Parker, Chad, does look like he could be the brother of Campbell Scott. He does look like he could be the younger brother of Martin Sheen. Like, that was pretty good casting. Is Mary nailed it? I fucking know. Martha Parker's like, no, they can't do it. All these dead moms having the name of Martha, Chad. It's crazy. But they take little baby Peter Parker, and he's like a toddler. He's got like derpy fucking legs and shit. But they take derpy Peter over to his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and they like gave a little bit of brown in Martin Sheen's hair and a little bit of more black in Aunt May's hair. And she's Sally Field. Sally Field plays Aunt May in this one. She's like, where are you going, Richard? And he's like, listen, May, you gotta take care of Peter for me, okay? It's like, my wife and I, we gotta go. There's bad stuff happening at Oscorp. And she's like, I don't like that company. I don't like them, Richard. And she's like, I know you don't, Aunt May. And Richard, Mary Parker, she goes and kisses little Peter's like, we promise we're going to call you and everything's going to be fine. Richard's like, all right, let's go. And so he's like, Peter, listen, your uncle's going to teach you this very valuable lesson in the future, but you got to have Your responsibility. When you have responsibility, you're going to have a lot of power, right? Like, they do this weird backwards, with great power comes great responsibility speech. Like, it's not exactly that, but it's just like this long-winded version of it. And he says it here, and then Uncle Ben says it later on. And it's like, what are you saying? It's like, but listen, we're going to do the same fucking shit, but we're just going to do it, like, not as articulate. Just to have a bunch of word salad. It's like, okay. And Peter, he just wants to play hide and seek and shit. He doesn't know what's going on. And then good old Richard Parker and Mary Parker, they go out the door, and Peter looks at his reflection, and boom, we are immediately in high school, chat. And this little derpy-legged Peter Parker, he has grown into Andrew Garfield, chat, and he's sad. He's very sad. Oh, that's right. He doesn't like the crust on his sandwich. I'm like, fuck that. You're going to eat those goddamn crusts. I'm going to tell you right now, kid. You're going to, that's the part of the sandwich. You're going to fucking eat the crust, goddammit. Look, the Bosley Good Martin Sheen does not come across as nice little sweet uncle, because across uncle is a dark past. They all have a dark past. Fucking Richard and Mary Parker have a dark past. May has a dark past. She was flipping tricks on them streets. I see what she was doing back in the day. Yeah, I see what's going on here. But we see. Thank you again, Luke Boss, over the 10 minutes. But we do cut to, I don't know, it's however many years later. Peter Parker is in high school, chat, and he's sad. He's got like this kind of, and I know people are like, they Twilighted Spider-Man, but he does, I have to admit, and I think this is Andrew Garfield's hairstyle, but he does have that Edward Cullen hairstyle, chat. Even I'm like, all right, he does have that, and he's kind of he's very melancholy. He's super introverted, whereas like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, he was like awkward. He was awkward and like vaguely sociopathic, I would say. Just I don't know how to talk to people. Or he choose not to talk to them. Like this Peter's like he doesn't know how to talk at all. Like he's constantly has his hoodie up like this. He's walking around. He has a skateboard. Everyone says like, oh, the skateboard, the Sony executives, because they went fucking the kids love the skateboard, of course. So make Spider-Man a skateboarder. Actually, I learned that was Andrew Garfield's note. He wanted to have Peter be a skateboarder, kind of be like a punk, kid. And I was like, it doesn't work. I'm not. Yeah, Tobey Maguire is very much 60s era Peter Parker. There's no question about that. But so with this Peter, I'm like, I'm not really digging this. But he's walking around and he's seeing all the fucking students, and they're everywhere, and they're all talking to each other. And like the thing is, it's not that hot girls like don't talk to him. Like they all talk to him, they all go up to him, they all have something to say. He's just not fucking interested. These girls are throwing themselves at Peter because they're like, well, listen, when I'm out of high school, no way I'm gonna get into college. I'm gonna be barefoot and pregnant by the time I'm 20. So I gotta hook me up with one of these hot but very smart science nerdy guys, okay? So that's what they're thinking, is because these girls, there's like 3 or 4 girls right in the opening who just throw themselves at Peter. He's like, I don't know how to talk to you, and he just walks away. And they're like showing everything off. They got the belly shirts on, chat. I'm like, geez, Peter, come on, what is it? But no, there's only one person that he's interested in, the apple of his eye, chat, Gwen Stacy, okay? Which he weirdly collects pictures of on his computer, and there is no, like, he has files. His screensaver is of the debate team where the image has been blown out, so it focuses specifically on Gwen. And there is no doubt he fucking jerks it to that picture. Like, I'm sorry, it's true. That's fine. That's natural. But, you got to talk to her, Peter. You got to talk to her, man. Come on. Jesus Christ. But he goes to his locker, and there are these 2 horny teenagers just kissing right there. And I would be like, guys, can you move? But he doesn't say anything, and he tries to open his locker as they're literally crushing his hands as he's trying to get his math textbook or something, chat, to do maths in the maths class. Eventually they roll over, and all of a sudden, chat, boom, a fucking basketball comes. The basketball is returned. A basketball comes out of nowhere and hits him in the side of the head. Like, ah. And then he's like, what the? And it's Flash Thompson. He's like, you gotta watch out, Peter Parker. You never know when you might get hit with a basketball. And he goes, this is a good one, Flash. That's a good one. That's right. And so he walks away, Chad. He walks away, and he puts his hoodie up, and he's just sad. And he gets his little camera out. He has his camera. He likes photography. It's his hobby, Chad. And eventually it's lunchtime, and he goes to lunchtime, Chad, but he hears this big old commotion in the quad. It's like, what's going on in the middle of the quad, Chad? And Flash Thompson, this version, he's even more over-exaggerated than Joe Manganiello. Like, for whatever reason, Hollywood thinks all bullies nowadays are still like that 1980s, 70s Stephen King, where they're all about the physicality, where they're not really like that anymore. I like that in the most recent Spider-Man films when they have that Ravioli kid. What's his name? Tony Ravioli? I don't know his full name, Jay. I like him. I'm not mocking his name. I just call him Tony Ravioli. I really do like that he's a very cutting bully. He's just snarky and he's sarcastic. And he's mean in that way. Like, he has no physicality to him, but he's just like, he's just a rich punk who's arrogant. I like that version of Flash a lot. Whereas this one's just a fucking sociopath in this movie. He's just beating the shit out of people. Where Peter, he comes upon this big old fucking circle, and the Quietwood's going, yeah, Flash, yeah. I'm like, no, I just don't believe this. Where Flash is literally holding up this one kid like, give me your lunch money. Does anyone do that now? Revelori. I'm going to call him Ravioli. Does anyone, in all the respect, Penis Parker. Penis Parker. I love that. But he's literally just, does any bully do this nowadays where he literally picks up someone by their ankles and then starts shaking them for, like, money? Does that still happen in high school? Like, I haven't been in high school in, like, oh, Jesus Christ, at this point. Nearly 15 years, Chad. It's been a while. Maybe like, 13 years, I suppose. And I don't remember. I never saw any of that shit. We're not bullies. True, but as you've seen that, it's like a prison yard. It's like, Jesus Christ, is this fucking 1970s New York City? If this was 1970s New York City, I would believe it. Where crime was rampant, chat. There was garbage in the streets. People just shitting on each other the whole time. Then sure, but Flash Thompson literally has this give me your milk monies. Milk actually plays a very important role in this movie, Naya. Very important role, which I think is very funny. Look, the most activities. Give me your school ID so I can access your school lunch account. Might be that. I think people would just steal it or something. But he's literally lifting up this kid, shaking change. He's like, give me your monies. And he's then putting his face into, like, there's like a line of trays, which I get everyone just put their trays on this circular table. And he's just putting his face into each entree. Pizza, pork and beans and shit, like anything, spaghetti. He's getting just a medley of Italian dishes, Chad. American and Italian dishes. And then Peter's like, hey, fucking leave him alone, man. What are you doing? And then Flash Thompson just fucking loses it. He puts the kid down, and he just runs over and he just punches Peter right in the face. And it's like, okay, that escalated way too quickly at that point. And Peter and him start tussling, and Flash is clearly bigger than him. And it's not until Gwen sees this, Gwen Stacy, she observes, she's like, fucking Flash, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, Gwen, I just like punching people. It's like, well, don't do that, okay? It's very mean. You're not a Stephen King bully. And he's okay, Gwen. And he walks away. And you think, oh, she's going to go over to Peter and comfort him. It's like, are you okay? She just looks at him and goes, huh, and just walks away. She goes, oh, just leaves, and everyone else leaves. Everyone was like, what kind of school is this? Is this how kids act? It doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, Peter Parker! I think that's what he yelled. Look, I was thinking is my theory is Peter be stealing Flash's hose in this year. I mean, he does, technically. I guess, did Gwen date Flash? I don't even remember. When I was doing the audio video and commentary, I was talking over this scene because it was just so, like, over the top to me. And so maybe she was his girlfriend. I don't think so. Gwen seems like she's a smart girl. She doesn't seem the kind of type with the Flash Thompson is her type. She's definitely going for the, nerdy. Sexy nerdy, though, Chad. More like Andrew Garfield level. I mean, she ain't going for them nerds. I mean, come on, she's got standards, Chad. She's got physical standards. But Peter, he's all fucked up looking. He goes to class, and he puts his hoodie up, and he's sad, and he's in the maths class with Gwen, and she's, like, right in front of him to his right, I want to say, and she turns around, and she's like, hey, and she actually says, like, are you, oh, she tutored him, that's right, she tutored him. See, I was talking over that, I forgot. So she tutored him, and because he doesn't know, he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot, Chad. All he knows is basketball and how to punch and get milk monies. That's all. That's it. Those are his, his things that he could possibly do after high school, Chad. And he ain't gonna get fucking into college in that basketball degree. There's clearly better players than him. However, Peter sits down. She turns around. She asks him, "Hey, are you doing okay?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, totally fine, yeah." She goes, "So what's your name?" And he's like, "My name, my name? Yeah. Do you know your name?" And he's like, Peter Parker." She goes, I know who you are, Peter Parker." And he's like, yeah. And you're Gwen Stacy. You know who I am. They start flirting back and forth. It's very cute, but it's only a little bit, Chad. It's only a little bit. But eventually, Peter is like, "Well, that was cool." Put a little extra pep into his step, chat. But then he heads home. Where, we see Aunt May and Uncle Ben, Sally Field, chat. She's making meatloaf. Everyone loved that. All Sally Field does in this movie. She cries and she makes meatloaf. That's it. So she was one of those people. It's funny. All the actors afterwards who have talked shit about this film. Sally Field has been very vocal about her dislike of these two movies and how she didn't get to do anything, which she didn't. She didn't get to do anything, chat. She makes meatloaf and she cries. Now, Martin Sheen, he's the kind of guy where he loves comic books. He grew up with them and he read them and everything. And he was like really excited to be a part of like any comic book project. Sadly, his first one was Spawn, which I've also done a review for and an audio video commentary for, chat. Check that out. Where he's so over the top. And he was like, I get to play the iconic character of Uncle Ben. And it's like, but then he doesn't really get anything to do. Even what he does do, it's not fault of his own, but Cliff Robertson did better. Rosemary Harris, even though she gets nothing to do in Spider-Man 3, but even Spider-Man 1, she got stuff to do. And then she has that several amazing scenes in Spider-Man 2. Neither of them get anything interesting to do here. What Martin Sheen gets to do is like, the basement is flooded, Peter. Come downstairs and check it out. And so Peter and Uncle Ben, they go downstairs to check the basement, which is completely flooded. Uncle Ben, you see Martin Sheen's. If you ever want to see Martin Sheen's old man feed, boy, it's right there, full front and center, chat. You got it. And Peter's like, well, it's probably this, and this. And fucking Uncle Ben's like, can you fix it? And he goes, yeah, I can fix it, but I can't fix it tonight. I'm going to need these tools. I got to go to the hardware store and get these. And he's like, all right, I'll give you some cash for them tomorrow. And he's like, thank you, Peter. Thank you. And he's like, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to eat Aunt May's eat loaf. And we're going to have a good time. He's like, cool. But then, Chad, before Peter goes up, he's like, taking some more boxes out so they're not destroyed. But he notices one particular briefcase. Chad, I love the briefcase with the initials RP. That's for Richard Parker, who was his dad. He's like, whoa. Blackstone, great salutations to you. Hope you're doing very well. Hope you're living long and prospering, good sir. He goes upstairs, and he shows the briefcase to Uncle Ben and Aunt May, and they're like, oh, shit, that's your father's briefcase. And Uncle Ben goes on this story about how, at 19, your father, he was a smart guy. He was smarter than your dumb old Uncle Ben right here. But he bought that briefcase. I remember when he bought that briefcase is where he met your mother. And they talked, and then, they did science stuff, and then they had you. Peter. We're blessed with you. He goes, cool. I'm going to go look inside of it. Yeah, go ahead. Go look inside of it. See if you can find anything. And so Peter goes upstairs, and he opens this up and, takes out all these notes, all these old papers, a graphing calculator. There's a graphing calculator, which those things are super fucking expensive. Remember when you used a graphing calculator in high school and college and you barely ever, you never used it since then, chat? That was a fucking racket. Textbooks and graphing calculators, chat. It's way too goddamn much money. Luke the Boss, YouTube videos. Aunt May does have a secret pass in this one, too. She used to be a part of a covenant, and she had to ability to fly. Of course she did. She's the flying nun. Yeah, the Tremagnaries, you know what I'm talking about. But he's going over all these things, and he finds a picture, Chad. A picture falls out, and it's a picture of his father, Richard Parker, with Kurt Connors, Chad, Dr. Curtis Connors. And they were scientists at Oscorp. And Peter starts reading through all these notes about all this research that Richard Parker was involved in, but how in the journal he's like, I can't be involved in this. Oscorp is evil. And Peter's like, what the hell is all this about? What does this have to do with the formula, the lizard formula that he's working on with Dr. Curtis Connors? What is this? I must know soon. Eventually, Uncle Ben, he walks in. He's like, hey, Peter, are you okay in there? You're not jerking off? He's like, I ain't jerking off, Uncle Ben. Although the Gwen picture is featured prominently on the computer, chat. It's right front and center. It's blown out to shit, but that's, we see it. And so Uncle Ben comes in and he's like, Peter, listen, I know that I saw the shiner that you had there today. I know you was that bully. Do I have to make a call? Do I have to call someone's parents, someone's dad? He's like, no, Uncle Ben, you don't have to do that. He's like, that's assault, Peter. But he sits down. He's like, listen, I know that I'm not your dad, and you know that I'm not an educated man. Like he always overemphasizes the fact, I don't had no educations, Peter. I don't read good. It's like, Martin Sheen, why are you selling yourself so short? I don't read good, Peter, but I can read you. And I know something's troubling you. And it's like, this is everything with my dad and stuff and Oscorp. And he's like, well, why don't you go ahead and find out for yourself and this Dr. Kirk Connors. Listen, I knew Kirk Connors. I knew that he worked with your dad. And the thing is, he wanted nothing to do with us, Peter. I guess he didn't like that we didn't have much education. No education. And so maybe you can get some information from. And he's like, okay, cool. And before he leaves, like Uncle Ben looks at the monitor and he said, that's a pretty girl there, Peter. She's pretty. And he walks out. Before he does, he's like, hey, Uncle Ben. He goes, yeah. He turns around. He's like, you're a pretty good dad. And that was a good scene. I'm a fucking idiot, Peter. That's what he should have said. In hindsight, he actually is. It's true. He was right. He was right. Oh, Bilbo, good to see you. But he's like, it's actually a good moment when he says, you're a pretty good dad, Uncle Ben. I actually really like that line. That was pretty. I'm not smart. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. But he then walks out of the room. And then Peter starts using Bing, which is like out of everything we've seen so far in this movie. Like, it's literally a movie about people who get superpowers from bioengineered spiders and lizard formulas, and then they fight over a super weapon that will then turn other people into lizard monsters. To me, the most unbelievable thing in this movie is that the search engine that Peter Parker uses is Bing. And so he's looking up all this stuff on Oscorp and Dr. Kirk Connors. He's like, there's a lot to this, right? This is very interesting. It's like, give me a fucking break using Bing. Well, it's the next day. And he goes to Oscorp, Chad, which, of course, is the biggest building in the city. It's big old CGI building, middle of New York, Chad, middle of downtown Manhattan. And he goes inside, and he's like, he goes to the receptionist, and he's like, hey, ma'am, listen, I want to go meet Dr. Curtis Connors. She's like, are you part of the group? He's like, group? Yes, the intern group, the intern program. He goes, yeah. She's like, you can get your name tag. You can just go get your name tag to the right. He's like, oh, sure. And he goes, he's like, are you having trouble finding yourself, sir? He's like, no. Picks up a name tag, and it's like, Rodrigo Guevara. Which, honestly, I'm like, you know what? Fucking Andrew Garfield, I'm like, I wouldn't say he looks Latino or Hispanic, but I'm like, maybe a little Latino or Hispanic blood in him. I could kind of see that. I'm like, she's like, you could tell that's like, I don't believe you're Rodrigo Guevara, but I don't want to say you're not and then sound like a racist. So I was totally with this woman in this moment, chat. She's like, I don't want to say. Don't you put that? That's Chris. Why? I'm just telling you. But she's like, I don't think you're Hispanic or Latino, but she was like, I don't want to get canceled. I don't want to lose my fucking job, which I thought was very, very funny. And so eventually, Peter, he takes the fucking name tag. He's like, all right, I'll see you later. And he goes with the tour group chat, all these fucking nerds, and they're all talking and stuff about, decay rate algorithms and lizards and spiders and shit. And then who is their tour guide, chat? Gwen fucking Stacy. She's the star student of Midtown High, and she's the special intern assistant to Dr. Curtis Connors, and she's there talking about, lizards and shit. And the thing, and while this is all going on, we hear this person like yelling at the bottom of the escalator. It's like, it is me, Rodrigo Guevara. And he's been dragged out, chat. So Jesus Christ, that's not good. Even Gwen's like, yeah, you want to make sure you have your name tag, all right? Let's do the tour. But he's like staying hidden from Gwen at this point. He's staying really hidden, so she doesn't really notice him at first. And eventually they go to like the main lab area where they work on like lizards and shit. And eventually Dr. Kirk Connors, he walks over and he's asking these people about, lizard shit and everything. And then Peter's the only one that pipes in and he's like, I know this about lizards and formulas and such. And Kirk Connors like, wow. That was good. That was good. That was good. You're a bright young man. You're a bright young man. How'd you know that? He's like, the big old noggin. He's like, yes. You look familiar. And Gwen, meanwhile, sees this Peter, and she's like looking at us like, Peter Parker, you're not supposed to be a part of this tour. And he's like, you have a bright future ahead of you, young man. And then he walks away. Gwen then confronts Peter. And she's like, okay, you are not Hispanic or Latino. I know that for certain. And he's like, true. Listen, I snuck into the tour. She's like, why? Because my dad was a secret agent scientist, maybe, and he worked for Oscorp. And she's like, okay, that's kind of cool. Well, listen, I'll let this slide because you're like really cute. You're really cute, and you got a cute butt. By the way, Chad, I will say, to be positive about the spider suit, to be positive about Andrew Garfield's physicality, out of all the Spider-Men in the live action films, he does indeed have the best hookus. Because there's this one scene when he's on the ground and you see the booty, and I'm like, wow, looks, he's dummy thick. He's a dummy thick Spider-Man, whereas Holland, kind of, but Tobey Maguire flies a fucking board. Flies a board, chat. But Andrew Garfield definitely has the thickest of ass cheeks out of all the Spider people. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, Christian. You saw that shot. You know what I'm talking about. You'll know in the movie too, because I'm like, God damn, that kid's thick. Anyway, and he's like, sure, no problem. And he walks away, and she's like, that's a great ass. And he sticks to the tour group and stuff. But eventually, he wanders off. She wanders off because she's distracted, and she has to keep all these fucking dumb interns, in line. And he's like, well, I'm gonna go to the spider exhibit. So he goes over to the spider exhibit, where it has big warning signs on this one room. It's this super dark room. It's like purpley and black inside, and it says, "Do not enter." Experiment in progress. And he's like, oh, that means I can enter. And so he goes inside the room. It's like, Peter, what are you doing? He goes inside the room, and he sees it looks like all webs. These like singular web strings, and they have it's like they're super strong and stuff. And he pulls a fucking Prometheus shit. This came out the same year as Prometheus, and he starts fucking. There's like billions of fucking spiders everywhere. There's like probably hundreds or thousands of them. And I'd be like, oh, fuck this room, fuck this. And he's like, cool. It's like, no, it's not cool, Peter. These spiders could literally jump on you, and these are not radioactive. They're genetically engineered. Which the Raimi one was too, because back in the day in the 60s and 50s, and everyone's like, radiation gives you superpowers. No, it gives you cancer. It gives you tumorous boils on your face. It does not give you superpowers. Okay, and so these are bioengineered spiders. Or I guess they've been manipulated on the DNA level, on the microscopic level. Thank you, Septimus. He sees Irfan Khan, oh yes, who's wasted, by the way, go in there randomly, decides, is that what it happens? Okay, yeah, Irfan Khan, I did not know he was wasted. That's hilarious. Irfan Khan plays a bad guy. That's all he does in the movie. I totally forgot that he was in this scene. I know what, the big scene, when he's after this, he talks to Kirk Connors, it's like, you're out of here, Kirk Connors, your formula needs to work because Norman Osborn is dying? We learned that too, chat, later on in the movie. We learned that Norman Osborn is dying. We see this very ominous-looking 3D hologram of him where they don't have his face shown because they didn't know who to cast as Norman Osborn at this point. Eventually, Chris Cooper would be cast as Norman Osborn in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he has, the goblin disease. He's, zombie, and I think at the end of the movie, his head's in a jar, which I'm like, that's fucking weird. And he has some type of blood disease or something, but he's in the movie, and he's been gone for a long time. So, yeah, I guess he sees Irfan Khan. Which even then I was talking over the film, I don't remember that at all. He goes in there, and he starts Prometheusing everything, Chet. He starts touching certain things. You probably shouldn't do that. Probably shouldn't do that. No, it's, genetic engineer. Genetically bioengineered spiders and stuff. But he starts literally touching things, and the experiment's like, okay, there's a foreign subject in here. We're shutting down the experiment. That shouldn't happen. And so all the webbing starts to be recalled, but then all the spiders start falling on him. He's like, again, his whole thing is like, I would have been like, oh! I would have been fucking freaking out and batting my hair and everything. Chet, he's just like, ooh, ew, yucky. Eventually, he runs out of the goddamn room, and he goes back to, because Gwen realizes he's not in the fucking tour group, and she sees him walking down the hallway, and she goes out. She's like, Peter, what the hell you been? What are you doing? He's like, I'm sorry, I just wandered off. I'm curious. And he goes, well, get your nice little that butt. Get your nice little took us back with the tour group. He's like, what do I, ma'am? And then because the spider was the one spider that was still there, chap, on the nape of his neck. And it decided to like, I'm going to bite you now. And bites him right in the back. He's like, ooh. She's like, are you okay? He's like, yep, fine, never better. Just, got a sore neck. Just slept funny last night. She goes like, oh, okay, fine. And she walks away. But he's like, ow, that really hurt. And he then proceeds to leave Chad. He goes home, and he ends up on the subway, and he starts freaking the fuck out. He starts having weird dreams and shit, Chad. And the thing is, I would not want to fall asleep on the New York City subway, Chad. I would want to avoid that. I was like, that seems a little dangerous. And everyone's just fucking with him automatically. You have this one hobo gang leader. I'm not sure what he is, Chad. Like, he's either a hobo, he's either like a gangster of some kind, of gangbanger, if you will. But he looks like a 45-year-old gangbanger. And he, like, balances a half-drunk beer on Peter's head, and you watch as the small little drip of water goes all the way down until it hits Peter's head, and he goes, boy, he wakes up, and it freaks him out, and he automatically jumps onto the roof of the train, already showing his sticky powers. His wall come, everyone's like, whoa, he's like, oh, and he finally lets go, and the one lady who he hit because the one he freaked out and the bottle flipped and it dumped lukewarm hobo beer mixed with hobo spittle all over. And she's like, I'm covered in fucking beer. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And it's like, just make sure we don't tell anybody about this. And he touches her shoulder where her skirt is, I guess, her shirt. And he's stuck to the shirt. And she goes, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of stuck. And the hobo slash gangster is like, hey man, she told you not to fucking touch it. Get your fucking paws off. He's like, I can't. He's like, get off. And he's like, okay. And he rips his hand back, but that rips off her entire blouse, chat. So the bazoongas on full display. Boom, right there. Everyone's like, whoa, boobs. And they're very excited about it, chat. And they're like, hey, man, that's sexual assault, which I'm kind of on their side at this point. I'm like, all right, that is. You just ripped off a woman's shirt. Thank you, Silver Streak, for resubscribing. 15 months of incredible support, chat. Please check out Silver Streak. She's a great content creator, a great streamer. So many fun videos, so many fun streams. Whoop, whoop. I love it here. Happy way too many months. Thank you so much. Over a year subscribed. I've known you for over a year, Silver Streak. Thank you so much. Seriously. Appreciate it. Cheers and salute to you. Happy to have you here. Currently reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man, where Peter Parker Spider-Man has just committed sexual assault upon a woman. Although he was sticky. He was very sticky at the time, so he didn't mean to. It just happened, chat. So, these guys then attack Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And they're versatile. Like, they're getting a few hits on him, but he's starting to learn his abilities, Chad. He's like, oh, shit, he's learning as he goes at this point. And, they break his skateboard. He's like, not my skateboard, no. He's very upset about the skateboard. Chad, he's like, don't do that. But they start fucking fighting and everything. And he beats them all up at this point. He knocks them all out. And all the girls are like, oh, God, don't touch us, don't. He's like, I'm not a pervert. I'm not a sexual. Oh, God damn it. And he leaves. He leaves at this point. He gets the hell out of there. And eventually he comes home, opens the door, and Aunt May and Uncle Ben, they're like, Peter, where the fuck have you been? Where you been all day? He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Because they're waiting at the coffee table. They're drinking fucking coffee. They're waiting there. He's like, I'm sorry, I was out. I was talking to people at Oscorp and shit. I'm really irresponsible. I'm very immature. And he grabs something middle of the air. Like, he's like, watch out, Aunt May. And he grabs a CGI fly, chat. I was like, you got that from David Cronenberg's The Fly, goddammit. He did the same exact thing. And he's like, grabs it, and she's like, Peter, how could you do that, Peter? That's impossible. And he's like, I don't know, Aunt May. He lets the fly go. Aunt May, she's like, what is it, Peter? And it's like, do you have any like food? Do you have any sugar, water, any meatloaf? She's like, we keep the sugar in the pantry, Peter, and we keep the meatloaf in the fridge, Peter. And he goes over to the fucking pantry, gets his sugar water, chat, and then he also gets his meatloaf. He's just meatloaf. Oh, it's so good. So good. And Uncle Ben's like, I have never seen anyone like your meatloaf. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, and she's more upset at the fact that Uncle Ben hasn't said anything about her meatloaf for 34 fucking years than she is about Peter randomly coming home. And he grabs all the food from the fridge. He grabs the Ben and Jerry's, which is expensive, chat. He grabs the frozen macaroni and cheese. All the food is like, I'm just gonna, he grabs like some really clearly old potato salad or coleslaw, and he's like, I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it. He goes up to his room, chat, I imagine eat, stuff himself, and then jerk off. I would, he's got a lot of backed up web fluid, chat. But, Aunt May's like, why didn't you tell me you didn't like my meatloaf? I've been making it that way for 34 years, man. And he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel bad. I love you. He's like, I love you too. But don't lie to me. And so they go to bed. Eventually, Peter, he goes to bed too, but he wakes up. He stuffed himself. Whoa, witness! Silver Streak, thank you, witness! Silver Streak, thank you so much for the incredible support. Is Aunt May Sallyfield? Yes, she is, but I'm still doing I'm going to be doing the Rosemary Harris voice for all the Aunt May movies, for all the movies that Aunt May's in. I love doing it. Thank you, Silver Streak, for the incredible, look at all the amazing people that just came in here. Thanks to Silver Streak, incredible support. Thank you so much. An absolute pleasure to have you right now. Wow, who else is here, chat? Maha Vishna, welcome to stream. Rhino 201, good to see you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ooh, currently in the middle of my review for the Amazing Spider-Man. Peter has been stuffing himself full of meatloaf, and I imagine vigorously jerking off all night, as you do. Mavisha will love it here. I hope so. After my little description, your Aunt May sounds like great. Oh, I could, totally see that. Little Crane-esque. Definitely. As you do. What happened? I'm here, Chris. Me, what happened? Good to see you. What happened? I'm currently reviewing The Amazing Spider-Man. Peter just got his spider powers and he ate meatloaf. So he gets up and he goes over to the sink chair where he takes his fucking toothpaste and all of the toothpaste just shoots out. It just shoots out of the bottle. He's like, uh-oh. And he's like, well, that's weird. And it's like, this scene's unnecessary where he goes to turn the faucet on. All the water starts coming out, Chad. The faucet gets destroyed. He just starts destroying his bathroom, basically. And he's like, and he sits down on his bed, just kind of holding these things. Like, I don't know what to do. I might break things. He has to open everything like really slowly and delicately so it doesn't like destroy it. Can you imagine, chat? Can you imagine if he like hugged Aunt May that moment and just crushed her? I mean, it could have happened. It would have been horrible. I previously rated with how it's dirty and wonderful here. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're forewarning your people, and that's the responsible thing to do. Thank you so much. Eventually, he realizes like, I can use the power of Bing. Because that's the thing too, because when he gets home, like he notices something, like he feels something on his neck, and eventually it's like webbing. He's like, what the hell? It's a single strand of webbing. He pulls it, and the dead spider's been there all goddamn night. He's like, oh God, no. And he puts in like a little test tube and puts it to the side. And then Jay's like, how can I learn about this spider bite? Via the power of Bing. And so he gets online, chat, starts looking up spider bites, but it's not, I mean, how'd he get it? He can't even fucking see it. Can't even see it, but he's like, do spiders give you spider powers sometimes? Like, he doesn't know, Chad. He doesn't know, even though he's a fucking genius. He has no idea. He looks it all up until eventually he's typing on the keyboard so fast, and his sticky powers come back, and all of his fingers stick to keys, and they all come up. He's like, ah, shit, this is really inconvenient. Eventually, he walks back downstairs, Chad. He's like, I gotta go to school. That's what I'm gonna do today. And so he fucking goes to school, chat, because he's like, this is fucking weird. And he has like a very odd day at school, chat, where he's kind of like hanging out with everybody, and it's kind of really awkward. And eventually, it's like we cut to the. Are we at the point where? Oh yeah, no, he's doing his homework. That's what it is, chat. So after he does, because it's the weekend at this point. After he does his Bing research, he's doing homework on the rooftop, and Ben's like, you gotta be careful up there, Peter. That's 2 stories high. You can break your neck. He's like, I understand, Uncle Ben, I understand. But he basically, he's reading the lizard's book. He's reading Dr. Kirkonis's book. And then eventually, he goes ahead and he knocks on, he goes to like his address, where the lizard lives, where Dr. Kirkana lives, and he fucking answers. He's like, I don't know who you are. Get out of here. He's like, my name is Peter Parker. I'm the son of your best friend. And he goes, oh, Peter Parker. And for the rest of the movie, For the fucking rest of the movie, he says, Peter Parker, like really enunciates the P's for some reason. And I don't know if that's because he's British or he's a lizard abomination monster, but he's all about that. And it's like, that's kind of weird. But he goes inside. And the thing is, though, so they really cut out a lot of Dr. Kirk Connors' background for this movie. Originally, there's like multiple scenes with his family. There's scenes with his wife. There's scenes with his son. You even see that, like, he is married. He has a wedding finger on the arm that he still has, his left arm, Chad. He has a wedding band on. But they are not in the movie at all. And I'm like, that would have actually been really important to bring these characters in so we feel like an emotional connection to Dr. Kirk Connors and realize what he's doing. Because outside of that, he's just kind of some weird fucking scientist that wants to turn people into lizards. And that's not enough to really care about him. You know, even as like what I thought, I've talked about this before. I was talking about this in an audio video comment. Would have been interesting is what if, because he says, oh yeah, you know, Richard Parker, he told me I felt, you know, he said that I'm leaving. I don't want to be a part of this research anymore. And I felt bad about it. And he said to like, hey, take care of my son. But I chose not to because I was mad. And I feel kind of bad about that. Peter, could you ever forgive me? Peter Parker. And he's like, yeah, sure. I think it would have been really interesting if Dr. Kirk Connors had done that, where he was a part of Peter's life since he was a child. And he was a part of the family almost, if you will. So he had his family of Uncle Ben and Aunt May, but also had the Connors, of course. And, you know, that's where he found his love of science was through Dr. Kirk Connors. And he was almost like a second son to him and his wife, and also like an older brother to Kirk Connors' son. That would have made it like a lot more intimate and real and would have given, you know, Peter, I think, a better emotional connection to the villain instead of just being some creepy lizard guy. I was like, that would have been awesome. So, and the fact that they couldn't even do the decency of giving the guy his wife, or like those scenes where he's with his wife or his son, it's like, shit, that's a huge lost opportunity. And he's barely in the movie. He's barely in the movie. You forget him. It's like, oh shit, the lizard's in the movie. That's right. But they're talking, and he's like, well, listen, do you think, like, you know, because fucking Kirk Connors, his whole thing is, I want to combine humans and animals into one organism and basically have the strengths of both, the weaknesses of neither. So I want to have the regenerative abilities of a lizard so people can regrow their limbs and stuff and fight off diseases and things. But I've been stuck for so long, Peter. And Peter's like, do you believe you can do it? He's like, yes, I do. And he's like, cool. Purple Canary, thank you for the 150 biddies. Appreciate it. Oh, thank you guys for the positive words. Yeah, I'm sure other people have said it too. But, you know, because I like it when the hero, especially Spider-Man, has a really big personal connection to the villain. That makes it, you know, better, obviously. Yeah, that's what we've seen in a lot of the previous movies, where his friendship with Mysterio, or the fact that his fucking the dad of the love of his life is his supervillain, which I think is nice. Thank you. I think Dylan Baker would have made a great list. Yeah, it's too bad. Poor Dylan Baker, chap. He never got the opportunity. He was so excited to do it too. It was a goddamn shame. I think he got to voice the lizard in the Spider-Man 2 or 3 video game. I think he was one of the voices that did that. But thank you, Purple Canary, for the 150 biddies. Very, very kind. Okay, so let me see if anyone else has been. And Technician, thank you for the host, spreading the word of the Revenants. There are the words going out there, Chad. Hopefully. Not only get more Revenants, but also Huckleberries, my followers. Thank you, Chad. But then Peter, he's like, I think I found your issue, because Kirk Connors is like, I don't know how to fix this. We've been struggling for years, and we've hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And he's like, oh, Peter, like, well, what about this? And he writes down some math formula, which is just nonsense. I'm sorry, but if you look at whatever the fuck he wrote, you're like, what the hell is it? What is this? There's letters. There's letters. It's like the Greek alphabet. And he's like, Peter, this is Peter Parker. This is brilliant. And he goes, how did you know? And he's like, you know, the big old noggin. He's like, oh, yeah, this is quite a good Peter. And at one point, like, he's pouring coffee for Peter, and you know, Kirk Connors, he's so absent-minded, he knocks down the cup, and Peter just grabs it with his spider. He's like, ooh, he's like, good reflexes, Peter. And he's like, oh, thanks, man. And he's like, you gotta come and work for us. You gotta come and work for me. We're gonna do so many great things together, Peter Parker. And he's like, cool. That sounds great. Thank you. Vanispheres, thank you for the host, spreading the word of the Revenites. They continue to grow, chat. They continue to grow in strength. Eventually, chat. I think then that's when Peter goes. He's like, he's feeling good about himself. He's got like a new father figure in Kirk Connors. He likes science. He's not as dumb as Uncle Ben. We're dumb, and I'm not saying like Uncle Ben's dumb. Uncle Ben calls himself dumb. He's like, I don't like the edumacation, Peter. You know that. You know I'm not good at the maths and the words and such. And he's like, true. And so then he goes to school that day. He goes to school, and he's in the gymnasium, and he's just hanging out, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's like extracurricular activities or community service. Like everyone's doing something different. The basketball's practicing basketball. The nerds are painting signs, and Flash, he like the ball like bounces away from him or something and knocks over this one girl's paint bucket, and she's like, "Flash, you did that on purpose," because he ruins her like sign, and then he just again, he's really fucking aggressive. Whereas like, it was an accident. If I really meant to do it, you would know. And he's like fronting on her. It's like, that's a fucking girl, you asshole. That's a woman. He's like, ugh. And Peter's like, hey, Flash, well, you leave her alone. And he's like, what the fuck you gonna do about it, Parker? And he fucking throws the ball. Parker goes, boom, and he catches it like it's nothing. And he goes, you want your ball back, Flash? You want it? He's like, yeah, give me my ball back, man. And he tries to take it, but Peter's got them spider reflexes now. He's like, woo, woo, da, ba, da, ba. He's doing all that crazy shit. Able to move it around and everything. He's like, fucking guy, can't get the ball. And he's like, don't worry, Flash, don't worry. Here, I'm gonna close my eyes. Here you go. He's like, whatever. And he takes the ball, but he can't get it out of his grip because he's got that spider strength. And he fucking rips it out of Flash's hands. He's like, whoa, Peter. And he's like, let me show you how a real basketball star does it, Flash. And we get a really bad CGI green screen shot of Andrew Garfield running to the basket and leaping. It looks so bad at him making the dunk. He dunks it, but then it destroys the backboard and the whole thing comes apart, Chad. He's got that spider strength. Everyone's like, whoa, you're a freak, Parker. And then, Uncle Ben is called to the school, called to the principal's office, and he's talking about, we'll give you this one warning, Peter, since you're a good student, you're a good boy, but no more bullying Flash Thompson. I love how the fucking principal's saying no more bullying Flash Thompson, even though Flash is physically assaulting multiple people across the school, including women. It's like, what the fuck? But okay, sure. And then Uncle Ben, he's mad at Peter. Do you feel good about yourself doing what you did? And he goes, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess. And he's like, was that the guy that smacked you around? Was that the guy that hit you? And he goes, yeah, you got back at him. You humiliated that boy for revenge. Peter, you know better. You know not to do that. He's like, I know, Uncle Ben, I know. He's like, all right. I mean, I'm not even mad I have to pay for this backboard, okay? But you're better than this, Peter, okay? Listen. I want you to do something. How you can get back in my good graces? If you can go pick up your Aunt May from the doctor's office. She's in the hospital. She's getting her checkup. Okay, her colonoscopy. She's going to be sore from the colonoscopy, Peter. Okay, I can't have her walking around after that. She's going to be wandering the streets of New York. She's going over the anesthesia. You know what that does to her. She gets very loopy, Peter. So you can do me a big solid if you pick up your aunt, okay, if you're with her. He goes, okay, Uncle Ben, I'll do that. He goes, good. All right, I'll see you later. Oh, he's like, oh, and he notices like Gwen Stacy's like looking at him like this the whole time. And he goes, oh, look at that. It's the girl. It's the girl on your computer. He's like, Uncle Ben, please shut up. He goes, hey, girl. Hey, pretty girl. And she like turns around. She goes, what? He has pictures of you on his computer. And then he just walks away. And I would have been like, you fucking old man, I'm going to kill you. Which, in hindsight. I think at that point, Peter meant for Uncle Ben to die. Because, oh my God, he's like, he keeps pictures of you on his computer, and he just leaves after that. And Peter goes to something, I have pictures of Gwen Stefani on my computer. That's what she goes, yeah, Gwen Stefani, yeah. So now you don't have any pictures of me? And she's into it, though. She's like, are you jerking? Peter, are you jerking off to me? And he goes, yeah. And she's totally into it. And then I will say, to not be so crass and gross, their cute little flirting back and forth is super adorable. And where he's like, oh, witness me, Red Wing, thank you so much for the raid. Everybody on the dance floor. Raid, thank you so much, Red Wing, for that raid. I do appreciate it, good sir. Hope you're doing very well. Thank you. What were you playing? What were you doing today? Criminal, my review for the amazement. We got a lot of raids tonight. This is awesome. Got a lot of raids tonight. I'm reviewing the Amazing Spider-Man chat, where Gwen has learned that Peter Parker jerks off to her, or her pictures at least, and she's into it. She's really into it. But I love their whole back and forth and how cute it is. And he's like, hey, do you want to, do a thing or something? And she's like, yeah, I mean, the thing or something. Yeah. He's like, yeah? You wanna go do something or things? Yeah, either the something or the thing. And he's like, okay, yeah. Again, you buy it. It's super. Oh yeah, modern day Gwen Stacy would totally have an OnlyFans. Fucking Mary Jane would have an OnlyFans. Both of them would, no doubt. Both of them would. But their whole thing is super fucking cute, and you're like, I totally buy this. Eventually, Peter's like, he's really high in his own supply, chat, and so he's like, what does Peter do after flirting with a really cute girl? He goes skateboarding, chat, because then we get the skateboard montage, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you could have cut this all out of the movie. We could have had a scene with Dr. Kirk Connors interacting with his family right here to really get to know him as a person, but nope, skateboard montage, and he's doing ollies and kick flips and air somersaults, and then eventually he's like swinging on chains, which you're like, oh, that's how he figures out how to do swinging and stuff. I see. I get you, movie. And it's just that for 5 fucking minutes of skateboarding. I'm like, this literally could have been cut completely out of the movie. It's not fucking. I don't need it. Eventually we where are we now? Oh yeah, I think that's when he then goes to. I think it's when he goes to Dr. Kirk Connors. Kirk Connors is like, hey, can you stop by the lab? We can talk and do all sorts of like cool stuff and shit. And he's like, yeah. And so he goes to the Oscorp lab. This is the scene after this, after the skateboarding montage. He's like, well, after skateboarding, I got to go see Dr. Kirk Connors. And so he goes see Dr. Kirk Connors. Or Dr. Connors has his whole holographic display, and he's like, hey, I have these 2 mice, okay? And it's Fred and Wilma. There have been many Fred and Wilma mice, Peter, all right? They're both paraplegics. They're missing a little foot. There are 3-legged mice, Peter. So I wanna grow one of their legs back. And he's like, cool, we're gonna use your algorithm, your maths mixed with the lizard DNA, and to see if we can grow back Fred or Wilma's leg. And it's like, cool. And so they do like these tests, these hologram tests, and the fucking hologram mouse all becomes like mutated and gross and shit. Until eventually, because Kirk Connors, he gives up very easily, chat. Because after the 3rd attempt, he's like, oh, it's a waste, we're fucked. But then the 4th one, it's like, oh no, it works. Here's the sequence. And then the leg comes back and it's like, whoa, that's awesome. And he's like, Peter, we're gonna do the test now. So I think they put it in Wilma or something, or Fred. Like, put in the Fred mouse. They put in Fred, and Widow Wig starts to grow back. And he's like, oh, Peter, this is amazing. This is incredible. And at this point, be like, yes, I want my money now, Dr. Kirk Connors. I would like my money. He goes, no. And it's like, and so and then Kirk Connors like, human testing begins next week, Peter Parker. I would love for you to be a part of it, Peter, to see it. And he's like, cool. But he keeps getting called by Uncle Ben. And he's like, he keeps ignoring it. It's like, that's not smart, Peter. Eventually, after him and Kurt are like, oh, they're just singing each other's praises and how great that they've fallen back in each other's lives. It's so good. Eventually, he does head home. And Uncle Ben is sitting there on the porch, and Martin Sheen is pissed. He is very mad. And he's like, do you know how much fucking trouble you're in? And he's like, oh, Aunt May, I forgot. She's like, she was walking all around downtown Manhattan not knowing who she was, Peter. I told you to pick her up. Now you go inside and apologize to your Aunt May. And we go inside. Aunt May's like, Peter, it's so good to see you. Uncle Ben, leave him alone. I was fine. And it's like, shut up, May. I told you to fucking shut up. Shut the fuck up. He needs to learn respect. Apologize to your Aunt May. And he's like, Aunt May, I'm really serious. You can't do anything wrong, Peter. I love you. You're perfect. And he's like, don't tell him that, Aunt May. He needs to learn a lesson, okay? And then he needs to learn about responsibility. And you're thinking, oh, here he goes. And he's like, Peter, I'm going to tell you something. With great power comes great responsibility, okay? You got a heck of a mind, but you got to use it. You got to be in the now, too, not just think of the future. You got to take care of the people you love. That would have been great, because that would have been the tone. But then, for whatever reason, they gave Martin Sheen some word salad, where he's like, listen, Peter, you have power, and with that power, you have a great mind. All right? And mixed with that, you have people that you love, and that's your responsibility, Peter. And it's like, what the fuck did you just say? they just completely like, well, we can't have him say the exact same line, even though you've been doing the exact same shit, except he's more emo and he loves skateboarding. It's the same fucking thing. He flubbed. I guess he flubbed the line. You know what the hell he was talking about. I was like, okay. And Peter's like, I don't know what you're talking about, Uncle Ben. And he's like, and he gets mad though. He's like, well, yeah, you think you're doing this fucking great power comes great responsibility speech? Because that's the thing. Uncle Ben says, that's what your father always said. That's what you and your father and I always live by. And so, well, how about this, Uncle Ben? Why are you here telling me this instead of my fucking father? Where the hell is he? Because he fucking abandoned me all those years ago, and I haven't seen him since, and I fucking hate both of you. And he runs out, and he slams the door, and it's a glass door, and all the glass just fucking shatters, and we're like, oh. And he runs away. I'm gonna go get milk. Milk, chat. Milk. He's got to go get his vitamin D. Got to get the D, chat. Got to get that milk. And, Sally Field's like, Aunt May's like, Ben, let him go. He needs to work it out. And Ben's like, I'm going to go after him and continue to fucking prod him. And she's like, I wouldn't do that, Ben. He's like, I'm going to do it. And so he leaves. And he's like, Peter. It's just fucking Martin Sheen in Queens, which not a single person on the street, by the way. It's so unrealistic. Even though it's at night, no one's walking around. And, apparently, Martin Sheen doesn't look up because Peter's like literally on a lamppost just kind of going harumph. And then we immediately cut to Peter in a convenience store where he's trying to buy milk. He needs his fucking milk, man. And the thing is, he's like 2 cents short. He has $2.15, but it's $2.17 for the milk. And he's like, listen, man, I have $2.15. I don't have $2.17. He's like, it's $2.17, dude. Okay, you gotta pay me $2.17. I need it. I need the money. I gotta get the money. He's like, okay, I'll take 2 pennies. And he's like, no, you can't do that. What do you mean I can't take it? It's a $10 purchase or more. You get to take a penny. Okay, your purchase is not $10 or more. All right, you can't do it. He's like, well, fine. Fuck it, fine. You keep the fucking milk. Keep it. And he's just pissed. And then Chad Kroger from fucking Nickelback walks in behind Peter. I'm like, that's Chad fucking Kroger. I know who you are. He walks up behind Peter and he's like, hey man, I want to buy this beer. And the thing is, he like knocks over something. He knocks over like a display. And the cashier's like, really, man? Really, you gonna fucking knock over my display? He's like, all right, whatever, man. He picks it up. And the guy like reaches over and steals all the cash out of the fucking cash register, chat. And he's like, and they say that a hero can save us. And he grabs the milk. He's like, hey, dude. And he throws the milk to Peter, who then grabs and he's like, see you later, hero. And he walks out. Peter's like, hey, thanks, man. Fucking New York. I love that, chat. I fucking love this. Does he need a hero to save him? Oh, he's gonna stand there and wait. Peter does. But for whatever reason, Chad Kroger, he freaks out when he gets out of there. The clerk is like, hey, he stole my money. Get that guy. He stole my money and beer. He's like, whoa. And so Chad Kroger, he starts running away. And Peter like watches this from a distance, like, yeah, fuck that guy. Yeah, I like that guy. He got me my milk. And this guy starts like knocking the people and things. He drops his beer, it starts fizzing everywhere. And he's heading like right towards Uncle Ben. And Uncle Ben looks at him, and then the guy trips, and he has a gun, and the gun falls out. Just goes on the sidewalk. Uncle Ben, for whatever reason, goes, I need that gun. I need it now. And Uncle Ben just waddles over. It tries to grab the gun. It's like, why are you grabbing? Uncle Ben just go, whoop. Just stand back, hands up, let him pass. He brought on his fucking self, Chad. This whole thing was totally mishandled. Where Uncle Ben waddles over, grabs the gun. Chad Kroger's like, man, give me my gun back. And then the gun goes off. Uncle Ben gets shot in the gut. He's like, ugh. And he dies instantly. There's no, like, listen. The original Spider-Man chat, when Cliff Robertson dies, yes, Tobey Maguire has that. He has that ugly cry. But Cliff Robertson and Tobey Maguire, they were in sync in that moment, chat. It was a really good job where he's like, Peter. And he dies. He's scared. It's like, oh, my God. And so you feel like the guilt. Why Peter, is like, oh, my God, this is my fault. My uncle was so scared before he died. It's like, oh, it just hurts you. Here, no, he fucking deserved it. Martin Sheen, he keels over immediately, dead. Peter's like trying to put Martin Sheen. Oh, gee, I'm so upset I'm sneezing. He's trying to put Martin Sheen's tummy guts back inside of his tummy, and it's like, it's not working. It's just not fucking working. It's not working at all, chat. It's not good. And eventually the police, they pick Peter up and they go to Aunt May's, and she's like, "What happened to him? What happened?" And they're like, "Oh man, he seemed to have gone. He went for the gun when he shouldn't have done that." They said, he was murdered by Chad Kroeger. Little do we know, Chad, little do we know. Apparently there is a shit ton of people in New York City that look exactly like Chad Kroeger. And so it's like, well, this is going to be difficult. Thank you, Christopher Tibbetts. This is a reshoot. The original scene they shot makes a bit more sense when the guy lures Ben into an alley because Ben thinks he's Peter. It makes it seem like the dude's assassinating him as part of some grand plan that never get revealed. Wow. Holy shit. And they're watching us fly away. But, you know, Aunt May's very upset. Peter's upset about what happened. But, you know, Peter's like, I want revenge. I have to find this guy somehow. Ooh, I'm mad. And eventually, but he's still really sad about it. And he goes to school the next day. And I will say the whole school appropriately is like, shit, I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry. And they're all kind of like giving his distance and that kind of thing. It's like his uncle died. And he's at his locker and he's, you know, really sad and everything. And then like Flash Thompson, he goes, hey, Peter, I just want, and Peter just fucking grabs him and goes, boom, and throws him against the locker. He's like, he's like, you want something to say, Flash? You have something to say? He's like, it feels good, doesn't it? To hurt someone. I know, but I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry about your uncle, man. It was fucked up what happened to him, man. And he puts him down. He's like, thanks, Flash. And Gwen sees him. He doesn't even look at Gwen. They share like a steamy little glare at each other, chat. And then he walks away, chat. Thank you, Nick Diaz, the chat. Look at all these incredible raids. Nick Diaz, the chat tag. Thank you so much for the raid, good sir. I hope you're having a very nice day. One of the backbones of the DT community. Make sure the goddamn wheels do not fall off the goddamn car. Good to see you, good sir. Hope you're doing well. But at this point, Chad, you know, he's like, I have revenge. I want revenge against this person who, you know, killed Uncle Ben. And he gets like a wanted poster of Chad Kroeger, basically, you know, and he's like, I gotta find Chad Kroeger. And he's one night, he's walking down this alleyway, and there's this one guy who looks very Chad Kroeger-esque, and they say, he's like, wait a minute, I know those lyrics, and he sees this one guy who very Chad Kroeger look-alike, where he's just beating the shit out of this girl, like clearly she's a whore. She is a lady of the night, she had a prostitute, you know, working them streets, doing tricks and shit, and he's like backhanding her and slapping her, and he's like, where's my fucking money, you broad? And he's like, I don't fucking got it, and he's like, hey, why don't you leave her alone? Oh, he's attacking people, you're gonna shoot old men too? He's like, what the hell are you talking about, kid? And Peter just starts beating the shit out of him. Pulls. Oh, that's the other thing. He has one defining feature. We learned that the crook, Chad Kroeger, other than being Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, he has one defining feature, chat, and he has a little blue mark on his wrist that Peter saw when he got his milk. And he's like, he can never have two things ever again, Chad. He can't look at a star anymore, and he can't have milk anymore. It just upset his tummy. But he notices this thing. So every time he assaults a Chad Kroeger lookalike, he always like pulls down their sleeve to see if they have a blue star. But he beats the shit out of this guy, but the guy has like a lot of boys with him. And even the whore that the guy was slapping around, he's like, what you hurting him for? What the fuck are you doing, you fucking weirdo? And they all come and they all attack him, and we get one. This scene is just, I understand why Mark Webb is, it's interesting how he directs action scenes, because he either goes with super realistic, like grounded, like they're very much on a set, and Andrew Garfield's doing like some light parkour with a little CGI enhancement. For the most part, it's just him hopping around. I was like, this is interesting. And then other scenes, he's all around the fucking city and fighting lizards and things. But it's like very interesting how he starts off really slow, but making it very realistic until eventually he's just hopping around like all the goddamn time. Where are we now? Oh yeah, so he eventually, you know, he's checking all these, a lot of Nickelback people here. He's checking all the Nickelback band members. None of them have the star on their wrist, Chad. He fucking gets out of there, and then we get the montage. Now, I will say, I do appreciate that. Oh yeah, they pay homage at one point to when Peter, like when he's being chased by the guys, he's like, see you later, guys. He falls through a building, and he ends up in the wrestling arena. And he's like looking around, he's all in a daze, and he sees this one guy who has the Spider-Man mask, like in one of the posters. He's like, I need that mask. And that's what gives him the inspiration to then adopt the persona of the Spider-Man, chat. And then we get this montage of him dressing up like, you know, like using like a unitard at first. sunglasses, ski mask, like very simple. And eventually he buys all this stuff and he makes the suit. He kind of looks like, a lot of people thought he looked like a basketball. Looks like it's made of basketball material. And the goggles are made of like sunglasses and they're like super yellowy orange. And I know that was a big controversial thing back in the day was his costume, Chad. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really like it. I love the Holland suit just because of how expressive the eyes are. Like that was such a thing in the comic where, I mean, you couldn't, I guess you couldn't think about how would we make this work in the movie? Because he has those plastic eyes over, over his real eyes, right? And how do we articulate them? So they never did it in the Raimi film. They don't do it here, but they do in the Holland films, which I really appreciate. Obviously, in animated stuff too. But he forms this suit over time. He works out the webbing. He creates the web form. Like he steals Oscorp technology. I don't know how he did this, but I guess when he's helping Dr. Kirk Connors, he steals some of the webbing from the spiders and makes his own webbing. And that's why he makes the web shears. Like I like how they showcase like his mind in this and how he makes the suit. Maybe the end product isn't great, but I was like, okay. And they do give him the web shears, which I always do love. And eventually we get this fucking third-person montage where they just took straight from the teaser trailer of him going. I don't like. They have a lot of first-person perspective scenes in this movie. I'm like, I just don't like these. They don't fit with the overall movie to me. This looks a little awkward. It looks too CGI heavy. Like nothing feels real. But he's hopping around and he's doing the CGI and everything. And he's the Spider-Man. He's the Spider-Man. And he gets a call from Aunt May at one point. He's like, hey, Peter. Peter? She's like, yes, Aunt May, what do you want? Bring me some eggs, Peter. And he's like, I'll go pick up some eggs, Aunt May. Actually, he buys the webbing online. Why Oscorp sells it? Fucking what? What? They sell that online? Did he buy it via Bing? Did he use the search engine Bing? Like, I would want some incredibly strong web fluid. And they're like, oh, we got that. Well, that would be very easy for Oscorp to track down. It's like, okay, first of all, no one ever buys our webbing. Like, no one. Except for this one fucking kid in New York, and all of a sudden this Spider-Man kid shows up. That's a little weird. That is so stupid. I thought he stole it. That would have made more sense to me. If he's, like, going in there, like he's helping Dr. Kirk Connors, he's like, yoink, I'm going to take this for myself. That would have made more sense. And I'm going to buy this online. Give me what the practical purpose of that shit? Okay. Eventually, though, I got to get eggs. But, he hears, like, he's got, like, a police scanner, and he hears about another Chad Kroger lookalike. Red Wing, thank you for gifting a sub to Afro Pharaoh. Thank you so much, good sir. Really, it was a great stream. Finally got back to KOTOR after taking a few months off to play Deathloop and Alice, but it's good to be back at. Just got off Dad and Tween. For the first time. I have two co-hosts who know nothing of the story to come. Nice, man. I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. I'm glad you're enjoying KOTOR. It's a fantastic game. I'll be playing Deathloop as well. And thank you again for the gifted sub. But then Chad hears on the police scanner that there's a Chad Kroger lookalike out there, and he's got to go get that Chad Kroger lookalike. And this Chad Kroger lookalike, Chad, is breaking into cars. He's stealing a car. So you see this one valet. He parks a car. Chad Kroger comes over. He's trying to get inside. He gets inside. And who also's in the car? Spider-Man. How the fuck did Peter get in that car, though? That I don't know. Like, Peter's, like, in the back, and he's just sitting there looking at the guy like this, kind of creepy. But I'm like, how did he fucking get in there, and how did he know he was going to be in that? Like, a lot of questions. But he's in there, and the guy's doing this whole thing, and Peter's like, so is this how you usually steal cars? The guy goes, whoa, and he fucking freaks out, and he tries to get out, and Peter's like, nope. And actually, I like this scene when he's kind of fucking with the guy, where he keeps pulling the car door shut. He's like, nope, using the web. He's like, oh, fuck me, man. Until eventually he crawls to the window. He's like, the window. I can't stop that. It's good. That's smart. And I guess Peter gets out the window. And the guy, he pulls a knife out. He's like, where are you, man? And then Peter appears. He goes, hey, dude. And he's like, ah. And Peter's like, oh, my God. Is that a knife? Do you have a knife? Oh, Jesus, my one weakness, small knives. He's like, listen, man, just let me go, okay? Nothing bad has to happen. He's like, oh, God, just please don't come any closer. And then, boink, he fucking webs him, Chad, webs him in the wall. Webs him again, and he's like, oh, excuse me, I got, true, and he's sneezing and things, and he's always webbing this guy, webs him in the crotch, Chad. Oh, there's this one shot where when he attacks the guy at one point, where he's like, crotch, and where Spider-Man's crotch just goes right in the guy's face, and he uses his thick Andrew Garfield thighs, and fucking Gwen Stacy knows those thighs are thick, Chad, believe me, she knows, and he does a little flip, and then that's when he webs to the wall, and then his attitude changes dramatically. He becomes very fucking serious. And then he gets right in front of the guy's face. He's like, "You like shooting old man?" He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he pulls down his sleeve, no blue star. And he's like, "This could have got a lot worse for you, motherfucker. Ooh, it could have got a lot worse." He's like, "Okay." And eventually the cops show up, and Spider-Man's like, "Oh, New York's finest, the boys in blue." And they're like, "Hey, you spider freak, freeze!" He's like, "Why are you pulling the gun on me, man? Don't do that. I don't like guns." And he fucking webs up the gun. He takes it from him, and it's like, "Yeah, man, come on, what are you doing? He's the criminal here." And more cops show up, and he's like, "Get the spider guy." And he fucking swings off. Eventually, we cut to Dennis Leary's in the movie. He plays Captain Gwen. I love Dennis Leary, just doesn't really seem to give a shit in this film. He's just like, I don't fucking know. I don't know. Lizard, Spider-Man, I don't know. Whatever the fuck. And he's like, "Listen, yeah, we got to stop this spider guy. He's a vigilante. He keeps attacking all these people and criminals, assaulting them. We can't have no vigilanteism in my city of New York." And Spider-Man's like, "All right." Eventually, though, we cut back, and Spider-Man, he walks into the house where Aunt May has been waiting for the eggs, and she's like, "Peter, do you have the eggs, Peter?" And he's like, "Oh, Aunt May, I forgot the eggs. I'm sorry." He's like, "What's happening to you? You're coming home every day with a new bruise, a new cut. I hate to see you this way, Peter." And he's like, "Aunt May, listen, it's nothing. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep, Aunt May." He's like, "I can't sleep, Peter. Not after everything that's happened. You're gone for so long, so many hours, and I care about you, Peter." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Aunt May, I'm sorry." And they hug. It's very sad. Oh boy, where are we now? Oh yeah. Eventually, we cut back to where? Oh yeah, I think it's where we go back to school, and Gwen Stacy's like, "Hey, Peter," and he's like, "Oh, hey, Gwen." Look, she's like, "I know it's kind of like been a while and stuff since we talked and everything, but do you like branzino?" And he's like, "I don't know what the fuck that is. Is that an Italian dish?" "It's a fish, Peter." And he's like, "Okay, I'm sorry that I'm just a dirty poor, Gwen. I don't know what branzino is." He's like, "That's fine. You're still cute and you got a nice little butt." He's like, "Why don't you come over to my family's place for dinner? We're going to eat branzino, and I was told I could bring a guest, and I want to bring a cute boy, and you're cute." And he's like, "Cool." And he's like, that sounds good. All right. Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, this evening?" She goes, "Yes." And he's like, "All right, cool." And so he's got plans, Chad. He's like, "I'm happy. It's not all about finding, Uncle Ben's killer. Now he's got a nice little dinner date with Gwen. Gonna meet her folks. Gonna schmooze. He's like a member of the family, Chad. So it's so good. It's so good. Eventually, we cut back to Dr. Kirk Connors, Chad, because he's in the movie. Remember, he was in the movie, Chad? You might have forgotten. You might have fucking forgotten, Chad. And he's talking to Irfan Khan, and Irfan Khan's like, "Kirk Connors, as you know, I'm a bad guy, and I'm going to shut down your lizard research." But he's like, "Why? The trials of the mice work so well." He's like, "Listen, Norman Osborn is a zombie." He's like, "What?" He's half zombie goblin. He's going to die soon. We need better results, okay? And the fact that you're growing little mice limbs back, that's not enough. So you're being shut down, and your access is going to be cut off tomorrow. Not now. Now would have probably been better, cut off all of your access to all the technology that we have. In hindsight, because that would be smart. He's like, "But tomorrow morning, all off." And he's like, "And I'm going to take all your stuff." Oh, I forgot, chat. I forgot in the movie. There is the MacGuffin. So at one point when Peter is talking with Kirk Connors earlier in the film, when they're doing the research, like Peter's walking around the facility, and he goes, "What's that device?" And Kirk Connors like, "Oh, the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin. Let me tell you, Peter. The MacGuffin, if you put like a vaccine inside of it or an antidote of some kind, what it does is it shoots it up into the sky and disperses it via a giant fucking cloud. And it's really good. So you can cure smallpox and measles within a day. It doesn't take long. However, it could be used by a supervillain, if you will, to, let's say, put in a lizard formula that if it then is shot up in the air, it will disperse over all of New York City and turn them into lizard people. And Peter's like, I can see why it's not used. And he's like, now you understand. He's like, I do. Thank you. So the MacGuffin. I forgot to mention that, chat, because it's so stupid. But eventually we come back to Kirk Connors, and he's like, well, I don't know why he didn't just turn off my access now. That's kind of lazy. I'm going to test the formula on myself. That's what I'm going to do. And I want to keep researching how to grow my arm back. And so he takes the lizard formula, chat, injects it in there, and he's like, ugh! And then we cut. And he's like, that's not good. That's probably anytime a scientist injects, anytime a Spider-Man villain injects something into himself and he goes, ugh! That's never a good sign. Back to formula. Eventually we cut. Gwen Stacy is like reading a book or doing maths homework on her bed. And, I loved it, like the little flirtation back and forth, because she's like, here's my address. Oh, I forgot to tell you the apartment number. It's 2016, so it's on the 20th floor. I think that's already kind of makes sense because it's 2016. Anyway, I'll see you later. And it's like, she's also awkward too. Again, anytime they're on screen with each other, it's very, very good. I really do like it. So, she's doing math homework, and then he just shows up on the fire escape right outside her window, and he's just watching her, and she's like, whoa, Jesus, and he like knocks on, and she's like, how'd you get up there? It's like on the face, like, I took the fire escape, and he's like, it's 20 stories, and he's like, you're fucking valet down there. He's very intimidating. Which I thought was a very funny line. And she welcomes him inside, and they're kind of going back and forth and flirting. She's like, oh, well, I'm so glad you came. I know you've been dealing with a lot of stuff recently. You know what happened? He goes, yeah, sorry about that. I'm distracted. He's like, it's okay. I mean, it's at least, yeah, it's totally fine with me. It's very natural how they're speaking to each other, because they're obviously super attracted to one another because they're hot, and they're both nerds, and they're doing the whole kind of awkward conversation. It's really cute. And they're watching us fly away. But they're going back and forth, and eventually, again, Captain Stacy just walks right into the room. He has a no lock doors policy. He walks right in. He goes, Gwen, fucking Branzino's, who's this? And he's like, oh, Dad, this is Peter Parker. This is my dinner guest. And he goes, I didn't see you. He doesn't say it, but I would have been like, how the fuck did you get in here? No one knocked on the door. No one knocked on our front door. I would have been very fucking pissed. Like, okay, what's going on? But he's like, oh, yeah, Peter Parker. Yeah, my daughter's told me a lot about you. He goes, great to be here, sir. And he's like, yeah, all right, we're going to eat some fish. You had Branzino before? He's like, I have not. He goes, neither have I. Let's go eat it. And she's like, oh, so is this how you're going to dress, Peter? You have your suit? He goes, you didn't tell me to bring a dress suit. He's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. You can dress like a poor if you want. And so they all sit at the dinner table. Apparently, Dennis Leary's been doing a lot of fucking. Him and his wife doing a lot of fucking because they have like 7 kids. They got a lot of kids in here, and they're all sitting there eating their brain. Peter's like, I don't know how to eat fish. Like, Peter, my God, you don't know how to eat fish? And like the littlest boy, Gwen's mom's like, the small one, help Peter cut his fish. And he's like, I got it, Peter, don't worry. And they're going back and forth and everything. And then, one of the kids is like, hey, Dad, you going to catch Spider-Man? He's like, we will, son, we will. Because Spider-Man's a vigilante and a criminal. And he's not above the law. And Peter's like, well, excuse me. It's like, now is not the time, Peter, to get into a fight, a disagreement with the father of the woman you love. That's not a great first step. That you're not going to be on a good place. But he's like, I take umbrage of that, sir. He's like, why the fuck do you take umbrage of that, Peter? He's like, well, based on those internet videos on the internet that I found via Bing, he seemed to be helping the people of New York. He seemed to be helping all these people and saving them. He's like, now listen, I don't know. I know you've been watching all these internet videos on Bing, on the Bing video player, Peter, but all he's been doing is assaulting people. He hasn't saved anyone. He clearly has some type of motive. He's tracking a particular type of suspect, a Chad Kroger Nickelback-esque person, if you will, okay? So his motivations, at least according to the data that we currently have provided to us, and according to our research, are selfish. And he's like, well, I didn't rescue me. Get the fuck out of my house. And then get very mean. Very, very, very nasty conversation. Gwen's like, Dad, I need to get some air. Peter, will you come with me? And he's like, yes, sir, I'm sorry. I actually like Rescue Me. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to insult you. I didn't mean to come off that way. He goes, but thank you for having me here for dinner. He's like, yeah, thank you very much. And they go upstairs. They go upstairs on the rooftop, and she's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why did you say you don't like rescue me? And he's like, I never saw it. I just thought it would really hurt him because he was in the show. And she's like, oh, Peter, listen, I don't know what's going on with you right now. Okay. And she's like, listen, I'm sorry. There's something I really want to tell you. She goes, yeah. And she's like up on him at this point. She's like, what do you want to tell me? And he's like, it's something about me. And she goes, oh, okay. That's fine. He's like, it's about Spider-Man. And she's like, oh, Spider-Man. Okay. All right. Well, did you want to, what about him? He's like, I don't know if I should tell you. She goes, oh my God, forget it. You know what, Peter, forget it. And she walks away, and he fucking unleashes he has the web shooter and then webs her ass. Because first she's like, did you just slap my ass? Like, it's like, and she's like, whoa, hot. And then he fucking pulls her towards him, and she's like, oh, you're Spider-Man. He goes, yeah. She's like, that is so fucking hot. Oh my God, I get to not only kiss a super cute boy with a great butt, but I also get to date the guy that my dad hates. This is awesome. And they start smooching. They start smooching hard and they grab each other's butts. Really good. Eventually, we cut to Dr. Kirk Connors, who's just the whole time. He's not doing well. It's like, I don't know if we should have cut to this scene of two teenagers kissing, and him just going, ugh. Not great. Not a great transition. But he's walking on an Oscorp chat, and he's looking a little scaly at this point. He gets into a taxi cab, which shows how day this movie is. He's like, let's get a Lyft or an Uber. And the taxi driver's like, where you want to go, man? Where you want to go? And he's like, take me over the bridge. He's like, are you okay? He's like, just drive. He's like, at that point, I'm like, I'm going to leave the taxi cab. This man is turning into a lizard abomination, but okay. And he's like, yeah, no problem, man. And they keep driving. It's like bull fucking shit. If someone was molting in my taxi cab and eyes were getting like super yellow and large and their fucking jaw was coming out, I'd be like, okay, I don't think this guy's in his right mind right now. He looks a little sick. I think I'm gonna leave the taxi cab. I'm not gonna go, okay, let's go. It's like, no, that wouldn't happen. Eventually, we cut back to the horny teenagers, and Gwen's mom is like, Gwendolyn, she's like, oh, sorry, Mom, I was talking to Peter. She's like, I can see that. Listen, why don't you come inside? We can talk to your dad together, and we can kind of fix all this, And she's like, okay, I'll be right there, Mom. She's like right now. She's like, Mom, I'll be right there. Okay, I'll be right there. She goes, okay, all right, just don't take that long. And she leaves. And, but then, fuck, we hear some sirens in the background, Chad. There's some sirens. There's an emergency somewhere in New York City on one of the bridges, if you will, Queensboro or fucking Brooklyn. And she's like, okay, let's get back to smooching. But he's like, I can't. I hear fucking police sirens and ambulance sirens, and I gotta go. And she's like, are you sure? He's like, yes, but I'll come back and I'll be smooching you later. And he goes, mwah. And he swings off. And she's like, oh my God, he's so hot, but I'm in so much trouble. And she kind of is. He's like, because she even says, he's gonna be the death of me. Yes, more than you know. Also, Captain Stacy, he's got to get going because he heard about all this shenanigans on the bridge at this point. He's like, okay, what's going on? It's like, there's people are saying they've seen some type of lizard monster. He's like, a lizard monster? What is this? This is ridiculous. Let's go. And so eventually, Spider-Man, he's swinging. And you think, the introduction of the lizard is going to be so fucking cool and grand. It's going to be like, we're going to see him. And literally, Peter is like above him the whole time. And we see the lizard just kind of flipping cars and going, rah. But it's like, what a lackluster reveal of the lizard. He's just kind of flipping shit. And that's all he's doing. That's it. That's all he's fucking doing. It's like, okay. And he's flipping all these cars over. And eventually he flips this one car over that contains the son of C. Thomas Howell, chat. And the little kid's name is Jack, because they say it often in this scene. He flips this one car over. He's also going for what's his name? Irfan Khan, because, he doesn't want him to shut down the research. And all of New York is like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Khan's stuck in the car. At one point, the lizard tries to grab him from the inside. He's tearing up the seat. Lizard's just, he's not very effective. And he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to push the car over the side. But he pushes the car over the side. Spider-Man, he webs up the car, and he ties it to the side of the bridge like all these other ones at this point. Has not even engaged the lizard in combat, has not even really seen him. And then the lizard, as his getaway, flips over like one more card that contains the son of C. Thomas Howell, and he's like, oh, because the form doesn't last very long, and he's becoming more human. And so he runs away. Meanwhile, Spider-Man's like, I gotta grab the son of C. Thomas Howell, chat. And so he goes in there, he lands on top of the car, he grabs it, he's like, all right, kid, listen, you gotta come. He's like, no, you're scary. And he's like, listen, all this CGI fire is gonna burn you alive, kid. You can't keep doing this. And he's like, no, you're scary. He's like, all right, I'm gonna take, and Andrew Garfield, the thing he loves doing most of this movie is taking off his mask. My God. He takes off his mask. He's like, see, I'm just some random schmuck. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not going to still go towards you. Like, I'd rather you have the mask on. But he's like, here, you can have my mask. He's like, it's smelly. He goes, I know it is. You put it on. You'll be brave like Spider-Man. He's like, okay, I don't know who that is. But he puts the mask on. And he's like, all right, and then the fucking car goes, and he grabs, and he's like holding on. He's like, all right, kid, fucking climb towards me. He's like, Peter, just fucking web him. But he's like, no, kid, you're going to do some work in because you weren't helping him before. And so the kid slowly starts to climb out of the car. All the CGI fire almost engulfs him. And eventually, the car just completely is ablaze. And he webs the kid. He gets him out of there, slingshots him out of there, Chad grabs him, goes over the bridge where he's like, here you go, C. Thomas Howell. And he's like, Spider-Man, thank you for saving my son, Jack. No problem. All in a day's work for Spider-Man. And he swings off, and then Peter has that realization. It's like, oh, I like saving people. Maybe I should do that more often. We then cut to Dr. Kirk Connors, who is now, well, I guess for whatever reason, he's like, I'm going to go in the sewer. For whatever reason. So he goes in the sewer, and he's just constantly in ankle-deep gray water, chat, just smelling like shit. It's pee and shit, and he's always down there, and he's just getting his face and everything. He's like, I have attained. And his whole thing is like, immediately, he's like, I have attained true power. I definitely need to turn everyone into lizards. Like, that's his whole fucking thing. I want to turn everybody into lizard people, but I need my equipment to do it. He's like, all right. Eventually, Peter's like, well, this is not good. Like this lizard monster has attacked everybody. I gotta do some research on this. Well, what guy knows all about reptiles? Oh yeah, Dr. Kirk Connors, who's been working on lizard formula. I bet he would know how to track down a lizard monster. Oh, because he also sees like an ad in the newspaper from the Daily Bugle, which is the one scene where the Daily Bugle's mentioned. He's like, fucking pictures of the lizard monster. You know, we'll give you how much money. Well, that's the thing too. I think that's the thing too. He needs proof of the lizard, because he wants to go to Captain George State. There's a whole scene when, I think it's right after this scene. So what he does is, Peter, he goes and asks Dr. Kirk Connors, like, hey, where is everybody, Dr. Connors? He's like, oh, Peter Parker. He's like, you look a little green around the gills. He goes, yes, I've given everyone the week off, Peter. He's like, okay, that's kind of cool. I know it's stressful working in a laboratory all day. Hey, listen, how would you know how to track down a reptile? He goes, well, reptiles are really cool, and they're the apex predators. He goes, I understand that, but how would that be done? How would that be done? He's like, why would I tell you, Peter Parker? He's like, why are you spitting at me? He's like, I'm sorry, this is how I talk now. Fair enough. And he's like, listen, Peter, I know that you may be interested in this latest apex predator that has visited New York, but I shall tell you, boy, leave it alone. And Peter's like, you're the lizard, aren't you? It's like, yeah, no shit, Peter. Yes, he is the lizard. And he leaves. He leaves and he's like, okay, obviously he is definitely the lizard because he's saying my name like really weird and evilly. He goes and confronts Captain George. He's like, excuse me, Captain George Stacy, listen, I know we got off on the wrong foot with the Branzino fish, and I kind of insulted you, and I said I didn't like Rescue Me. Actually, I've never seen the show, so I can't say. However, it's obvious that the lizard is this incredibly intelligent, dangerous biologist named Dr. Kirk Connors. He's literally making a lizard formula to regrow limbs. He is definitely your prime suspect. And fucking Dennis Leary's like, get the fuck out of here, Peter. I don't need any of your mumbo-jumbo stories. Next, you're gonna tell me that fucking King Khan's climbing the Empire State Building. get him out of here, boys. And they throw him out of the police station. And that's when he sees the Daily Bugle newspaper that's saying, like, we need proof that the lizard man is real. And Peter's like, that's how I'll do it. I'll take pictures of the lizard, and then Dennis Leary will believe me that there is indeed a lizard monster. And so then Kirk Connors gets all this equipment from the lab and somehow brings it down to the sewer. He has a little sewer lab now. I don't know how long it fucking took for him to do that. Like, I imagine it took all fucking day. I don't know where he plugged this stuff all into, but then he just starts recording everything. He just says, I hate humans. They're weak and inferior, pathetic beings. Being a lizard is so cool. I shall turn every citizen in New York into a lizard so they can share my gift. And then he does this weird thing where he injects himself. I am now upping it to 200 milligrams of lizard goop. And he puts the lizard goop into his arm. And he goes, and he just hits the camera for some reason. Why are you hitting your camera, dude? But he hits the camera for dramatic fashion. And eventually we cut back to Peter, who is in, like, the middle of the sewer junction over a whirlpool. I'm like, I don't know where we are. And he starts, like, literally making a web. He makes a giant spider web, chat. And he starts shooting all these strands down all these pipes. Like, I guess he just knows the lizard well. The lizard's obviously going to come here at one point. How the fuck do you know that? And so it's like, all right. He makes this big old web, and he just hangs out, and he plays Game Boy for a long time, shit. But eventually, he hears these webs being plucked. Someone's plucking these webs, and he's like, oh, shit, the lizard be coming. He's webbed up the camera to one spot, so it'll go off, like, automatically, like, multiple times. But then we see, like, literal chameleons and shit walking down the webbing, like little lizards. Like, lizards aren't native to New York City, chat. Chameleons, where are these fucking chameleons coming from? What's going on here? And I'm like, I get it. Did the lizard just like, I would breed all of my lizard friends? Like, what are you talking about? So that was weird to me. That there's just random lizards from, like, South America that are living in the sewers of New York. Like, that is not a native species to that part of the world, chat. They would die in the winter. They would die in the fall. It gets too cold, whatever. These little lizards distract Spider-Man because then the big main lizard comes in and he's like, you will not stop me, Spider-Man. I'm getting stronger every day. And he, like, grows out his nails even longer. It's like, and he slashes Peter's chest. And he's like, oh, you just made me look cooler. And then they start fighting, and eventually they fall into the water. And they get sucked into the whirlpool, chat. Like, oh, we're going to get our first true fight scene, the lizard and Spider-Man. No. What did I tell you? No. They get sucked into the whirlpool, chat, and Spider-Man he goes through these pipes. The lizard's just too dumb thick. He can't fit through. And he goes down all these just covered in shit water, piss water, chat, and he finally, he gets out. And he's like, well, that sucked. And all the poo water is clearly inside of his wound. It's like, that's going to get infected. That's not good. Lizard, he comes up from the whirlpool, and he sees the camera on the wall, and he goes, what the fuck is that? He grabs the camera, and Peter, in all of his wisdom, decided to put his name on the back of the camera, and the lizard's like, Peter Parker! He looks at the camera like, ooh, I'm gonna get him now. And he's like, well that's not good. That's bad. That's very bad. We then cut from Peter, we cut to Gwen's room. Gwen, she's hanging out in her bedroom right now. She's doing more maths homework using her graphing calculator and such. Peter's by the fire escape. She's like, oh, yay, Peter, you're here. She's very excited, of course. And he comes in. He's like, hey, how you doing? She goes, oh, my God, what happened to you? Why are you all injured and stuff? He's like, it's the lizard. It's Kirk Connors. He's a lizard man. And she's like, holy shit. And she starts coming, get the poop out of your wound. You're covered in poop. And so she cleans all the poop off of him. She had all the pee off of him. And she starts cleaning his wound, and it's just them flirting with each other, but it's super cute and adorable. And I'm like, I don't hate this. Again, anytime they're on screen together, it's like, this is pretty goddamn adorable. And they also use the fuck in the movie. I know I've been saying fuck a lot, chat, but they actually do use fuck, because as they're flirting back and forth, she calls him, like, I couldn't believe, I was like, my God. I was like, whoa. She calls him, you're my little fuck boy. I'm like, what? And he's like, what did you call me? She calls him my little fuck boy. And I'm like, wow, Gwen, you're into some kinky shit. And then they start smooching, even though he was covered in poop not long ago, chat. But it's like, all right, Nice little smooch, nice little pat in the ass, and he is good. And then we get some weird editing. We get some weird editing where we immediately cut to, I guess it's days later. I don't know. It's days later. Well, what movie you talking? I'm talking about fucking Spider-Man. She calls him the fuck boy. She calls him my little. I am not joking. Watch the movie. She calls him my little fuck boy. I think the line was meant to be bug boy, but the way she says it, she called him fuck boy. You know that there was many an outtake where I'm sure there was a blooper reel. She goes, "You're my fuck boy, Andrew." He goes, yeah. How she says it, she calls him bug boy, but she's like, "You're my little bug boy," and I was like, "What?" She said fuck. I like to think it's fuck boy, which is also true, Chad. It's also true. So then we get like a really hard cut. Because now we're back in Midtown High. We assume it's days later. Like, you don't even fucking know. And the lizard is coming out of a bathroom stall. He's just like, "How you doing, everybody?" And it's like, that's weird. Chad, I forgot. Oh, my God, I totally forgot. So when I forgot about Fred and Wilma, the mice. So when Peter was initially leaving the lab, when, Dr. Connors was acting all weird, and he's like, "Oh, you can leave now, Peter." Like, Peter goes by, but he notices the cage of Fred is open. And he's like, "That's odd." Like, the glass case has just been smashed. And he hears this. He's like, "What the hell is that?" And he looks over, and he sees Fred eating Wilma, and not in a sexy way, Chad. He's not eating Wilma in a sexy way. No, like, literally, physically eating her, and it's this giant mouse lizard abomination. Just, and it looks fucking ridiculous. It looks awful. And I'm like, oh, that's why I forgot about it, because it was so bad. Like, you could have cut that scene completely. We would have been fine. But I forgot about the weird mouse lizard creature that is eating out Wilma, chat. Eventually, we cut to Midtown High. The lizard's like, "I'm back, everybody." Now, this scene, so the lizard did have a more comic-accurate design for the movie. When this debuted at Comic-Con, this particular scene, they edited the hell of it, you can tell. It's the lizard coming out. He has more of a, like a crocodile-esque head, like an alligator-esque head, like he does in the comics, and he, like, attacks these girls, or he scares them away. They got rid of all that. And so he just comes out of the stall, like, bursts out of it, and immediately just starts attacking the students, looking for Peter Parker. And Peter's like, fuck, there he is. He knows who I am. And this is probably the best action scene in the movie, I would say, is the school battle. This is probably the best one, because the third act is just like, at that point, you're just like, all right, let's wrap this shit up. Let's wrap this shit up. It's gone on for too long. This is probably the best battle in the movie, where they're moving around the school. He's in full, he's not even dressed up as Spider-Man for at least half of it, but he's jumping around, and lizards climb on the walls too, trying to get him and things. Eventually, they take the battle to a classroom, and the lizard, his go-to move, like, you would think lizard's like, "I'm gonna eat you, I'm gonna bite you, I'm gonna rip you." He's like, "No, I'm gonna throw you around." He just throws him around. He grabs Peter, he throws him through a wall. And the lizard, like, sees some chemicals, and he's like, yes, mix. And he makes a grenade. He makes a fucking grenade, explodes. But then Peter, like, throws a block of wood at the lizard. He's in his Spider-Man regalia, and they start fighting. And we get a pretty cool cameo from Stan Lee here, where their battle goes into the library, and you hear nothing except the music that Stan Lee is listening to, which is like this very operatic classic music. And it's pretty funny as you focus on Stan Lee in the forefront, while the lizard and Spider-Man battle in the background. It's like, I actually like that. And, like, stuff's being thrown at Stan Lee, but Spider-Man's grabbing things out of midair, so it doesn't hit him, and he throws it back to the lizard. It's like, this is cool. I did like this. This is pretty nice. Eventually, Stan Lee, he gets out. He doesn't get injured at all. And they're done fighting in this, like, kind of like it's like this bridge hallway that connects these two buildings together. So, like, these big windows on either side. And, the lizard and Spider-Man are battling. At one point, the lizard's like, "I'm going to stab you, Peter Parker." And he's just about to, but then Gwen comes over. She's got her big old chess trophy because she likes chess, because she's a nerd. And she goes, flying, that thing's heavy, chat, and hits the lizard. And the lizard's like, "Oh, Gwen Stacy." And he's about to, like, kill her. But then fucking Spider-Man, he webs him up and he distracts him and things. Oh, so he rips off his tail at one point. He's like, "This is gross." Rips off the tail, throws it away. And then we get a really good line where he's like, "Gwen, I'm going to throw you through the window now." And she's like, What? And just fucking yeets Gwen. She's like, just yeets her through the window, webs her up before back of that noggin hits the concrete shaft, but she gets down safely, thank God. She's like, "Whoa." Eventually, the lizard's like, "Ah!" your feeble actions will not defeat me, Spider-Man. He's like, Spider-Man goes, oh, who's a big bad lizard? And then they fight. And then they fight again, and eventually Lizard's like, all right, I hear the police coming. I can't have them destroy my plans, and so he leaves. He just fucking gets out of there, and Spider-Man tracks him. And for whatever reason, he takes his mask off in the middle of the school again. After he's like, well, the Lizard escaped. I'm just going to take my mask off even though I'm wearing my Spider-Man costume. Weird. And he follows him down into the sewers shaft via the stalls. That's what happens there. Oh, God, where are you now? What's happening in the movie? Fucking Captain Stacy's like, Gwen, go home. Oh, that's at that point, too. I think, Peter, he goes down to the sewer system, and he's tracking the Lizard, and the Lizard's like, I must put my plan into action now. I will release my pathogen across the city and turn everyone into lizard people. He's very jazzed about it, chap. He leaves. And then Peter finds the videos all available for him. I guess he recorded them. There's no password. He's just like, oh, shit. And he watches these videos of the Lizard's like, I'm going to turn everyone into lizard people. And he's like, well, that's not good. And he's like, well, how's he going to do it? And he clicks another video. He's like, I will use the MacGuffin machine and put my lizard pathogen in, and it'll shoot up into the sky, and everyone will become lizard people. We know, Dr. Connors, we know. And so Peter, he gets out of the sewer, and he calls Gwen. He's like, hey, Gwen, I need you to get to the MacGuffin machine and make the antidote for the lizard formula. And she's like, okay, I can do that. I'll head to Oscorp and do that. And he's like, excellent, but please be careful because I think Dr. Kirk Connors is going to take the MacGuffin machine. So just be safe. And she's like, love you. He's like, I love you too. And so eventually, Captain Stacy, he gets a word on the radio that a lizard's been spotted downtown. He's like, my boys and I gotta take down a lizard man. And he's like, let's go, boys. And we see the Lizard somehow he got up through the sewer again. And this is where he's in more of the classic outfit where you see the lab coat. It's like, oh, more of this, please. This looks cool. But, the SWAT team somehow knew where he was going to show up, and they just shoot the fuck out of him. And he's like, no, you got me. And he lays down. And they're all like, hey, guys, is he fucking dead? Is he dead? And he's clearly healing and everything. It's like, he's not dead. And he goes, lizard people. And he literally uses lizard formula pocket sand. He sprays everyone down. I'm like, this would have been cool. It's like, as dumb as it is, the lizard just wants to turn the people into lizards. It's like, all right, fine. I would have liked to then have seen Spider-Man fight an army of lizard abomination creatures. Like, that's really cool. That would be, but that doesn't happen. He just kind of makes them a little lizardy. Like, they get, like, scales and maybe a little yellow eyes, and they got little talons. But other than that, they're just like, oh, I don't feel great. They just don't look good. It's like they're halfway between human and lizard. And they're more Cronenberg abominations than man now, chap. That's what really happens. And so the lizard, he ends up scaling the Oscorp building very slowly. Like, super slow. He's taking his sweet fucking time. He's like, I didn't fucking think this through. But he's doing that. Everyone's like, yeah, we're just watching this lizard guy just fucking crawl through the fucking building. It's weird. Spider-Man's like, all right, I'm on my way. And so he starts, the police have tracked down Spider-Man, Chad, and they start shooting at him with electricity bullets. And one of the electricity bullets hits Spider-Man, Chad, and he falls on the ground. He's like, oh, Jesus God. And they go over there, and they put him in cuffs. And Captain Stacy arrives. He's like, yeah, we got him. We got this Spiderman. And he goes over, chat, and he pulls off his mask. Again, Peter's like, I love it when people pull my mask off. And I guess when the mask came off, Peter's like, oh, shit, I should start fighting now. And he gets up. He rips the cuffs off. He starts beating up everybody. And eventually, all the cops are down except for Captain Stacy. And Captain Stacy says, freeze, Spider-Man. And, Peter turns around. He's like, hey, Captain Stacy's like, Peter, you're Spider-Man? He's like, yeah, listen, your daughter is in the Oscorp building, okay? The lizard's going to turn everyone to lizard people. I need to save the day, all right? And he goes, okay, you can go. And so he's like, cool. And so he's about to web swing away, but then this one cop's like, fuck that. And he's like, no, hold your fire. And He shoots Spider-Man in the thigh, Chad, and it's his thick, meaty thigh. He's like, no! And he's not able to web swing anymore. Once you get shot in the thigh, Chad, you can't web swing. And even the people on the news are like, Spider-Man is moving really slow. I don't think he's gonna make it. How the fuck do you know? How do you know? But at this point, C. Thomas Howell, remember C. Thomas Howell and his son Jack earlier in the movie, Chad, on that bridge? He hears about Spider-Man. He's like, guys, we're going to get in our cranes. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about, C. Thomas Howell? Thankfully, all of our cranes across New York City are positioned in a specific way that would then allow Spider-Man to swing all the way to the Oscorp building. And they go, really? He goes, yeah, hell of a coincidence, right? And so they all get in their fucking cranes. They all get in their cranes. And Spider-Man, who's just sitting on the rooftop looking sad, sees all the American flags in the background, too. I see the America coming to save the day. And all these cranes start rising up, and Spider-Man's like, I get it now. And he starts fucking running, even though his thigh was hurting before. And he's using the cranes to swing all the way to the Oscorp building, chat. It's like, only in New York, when you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. We then cut back to the Oscorp building where the Lizard has finally gotten to like the top portions, taking him like 35 minutes, but he then goes inside where Gwen Stacy's almost done with the cure, but then she's like, ah shit, the Lizard be coming, and she closes down the blast doors, and she decides to take the MacGuffin machine and a blowtorch and hides in a locker, chat. And I forgot. Oh shit, chat. I forgot about one other. Oh shit. So there's one other scene in this movie I totally forgot about when it's right before like we cut to the middle school, or excuse me, the high school of Midtown High, but it's with Gwen Stacy and her father. So when she's cleaning out the poop wound that Peter had, her father knocks on the door finally, and he's like, hey Gwen, do you want cocoa? And she goes to the door. She's like, no Dad, I don't want cocoa. Cocoa makes you fat. And he's like, well, you're beautiful to me. She's like, are you saying I'm fat? He's like, no, I didn't say, I'm sorry. And she's like, leave me alone, Dad. She closes the door. And he's like, I think that was a little too much. He's going to come back concerned again. He's going to apologize. He's like, oh, yeah, right. And she's like, Dad, he says, yeah. And he's like, listen, I'm sorry that I yelled at you about the cocoa. It's just that I'm cramping right now. And he's like, oh no. She's like, yeah, I'm bloated and I'm just kind of feeling a little weird, a little queasy. Nothing will make a father more nervous than knowing his daughter's on her period or menstruating. That was just like, I will stay away from you for the next 2 weeks. Just don't tell me anymore. I forgot about that fucking scene. That one was good. That was another good scene in the movie. I actually like that. He's like, okay, well, if you need chocolate, because I heard chocolate is good for that, I gotta go. And he leaves. And he's like, good one. He's like, you're not really on your period, are you? She goes, oh, you would know. Nice. And so then we cut back. Well, possibly she is now, Chad. She might have been lying, because then we cut back to the Lizard. And he's looking around and shit, and he's like, oh, they're making the antidote. I'm not going to pay any mind to the antidote making. Because then he starts sniffing the air. He's like, I smell blood. And he's like, what kind of blood you sniffing, Lizard? He goes to the locker where Gwen is. I'm like, you read between the lines, shit. I know what they're doing here. And she fucking blowtorches him. She's like, get out of me. And he's like, all right. So he doesn't kill her, which I like. He's like, I'm going to turn you into a lizard, Gwen. You don't have to worry about your period anymore. And he takes the MacGuffin machine. Eventually, she exits the building and she tells her dad, hey, Dad, she calls him the Lizard. I think this is the first time they actually say his name, which is the Lizard. They just refer to him as the lizard monster or the creature throughout the movie. This is the first time she calls him the capital T-H-E-L-I-Z-A-R-D, Lizard. And she goes and tells Captain Stacy, like, the Lizard's up there. He's going to release the MacGuffin and turn us all into lizard people. He's like, don't worry, honey. I'm going up there to save the day. Captain Stacy's on the case. He goes up there. Eventually, Spider-Man, Peter, he swings, thanks to the cranes. He gets to the Oscorp building. He makes his way up. Well, the Lizard's, he's putting in all the data to make everyone lizard monsters, setting that whole thing, puts a timer. Gotta have a countdown timer on that too, chap. But then, fucking Peter, he comes right up there and he starts fighting with the Lizard. And it's at this point in the movie, you're like, I don't fucking care. I just want this kind of, all right, we get it. They're fighting and everything. And at one point, the lizard, he wraps his big old thick tail around Peter's throat and he grabs his arms like this. And so Peter can't do anything. So he's strangling him. And the lizard, he rips off the mask and he's like, poor Peter Parker. No father, no mother, no uncle, all alone. And then all of a sudden you hear, he's not alone, he's got me. And they say that a hero can save us, not gonna stand here and wait. It's Chad Kroger, Chad. He literally, it's the killer. No, it's not. It's fucking Dennis Lear's Captain Stacy, and he's got a shotgun. He starts blasting the lizard, and he starts there. Thankfully, there was some liquid nitrogen canisters all around them, and he starts blasting the liquid nitrogen canisters, and that starts freezing the parts of the lizard's body, and he starts blowing off the parts of the lizard. He's like, ah! Like the lizard's like got little nubs for hands now. He's got like meat patties, and eventually he falls into this little hole where it's all the nitrogen's there. And Captain Stacy's like, my daughter gave me this blue stuff. It's the antidote so we don't turn into lizard monsters. Here you go. And he goes, thanks, Captain Stacy. I appreciate it. He's like, all right, now go and save the day. I got this. By the way, he does not got this. He does not got this. Peter then loads the antidote into the MacGuffin, chat. Loads it in there. Countdown timer again. Just fucking have it go out automatically. Just boom, automatic. No, 2 minutes. Okay. But then the nitrogen is all gone, chat, and the lizard starts coming out, and the bullets aren't working on the lizard, chat. And Dennis Leary's like, oh fuck. He panics, chat. He panics, and the lizard just guts him right through his tummy. He's like, no! And then Spider-Man's like, no! And he comes down there and he starts fighting the lizard. They start fighting. And then the lizard's like, the machine, the MacGuffin should be released. The lizard starts crawling up there, but they're fighting over the MacGuffin and stuff until eventually it goes up. And the lizard's like, yay, we're all going to be lizard people, Peter. But then it explodes. It's all blue. It's not green, but the lizard doesn't notice this. And soon, like, little flakes begin to fall down, and it changes him back into Risa Fawn's chat. He's like, no. And he falls. He's like, and he falls, and he's like, hits the ground. He's not dead, but he's kind of like, I'm in pain. And then the tower begins to fall after the MacGuffin went off. And it's like, oh, that's not good. And the MacGuffin fucking falls, and Peter's like, he's all injured at one point. He's careening over the edge, and he's trying to hold on, but then, the lizard grabs his arm, and he's like, I have you, Peter. You are a good man. And it's like, what? And he grabs Peter, and he pulls him over the edge, and he's getting all greasy. He's just, by the way, we see, like, half lizard, half Risa Fons. It's just gross. It's just gross looking. He's all just, ugh. You need some aloe or something. But then he's like, oh, the captain. You must see to the captain, Peter. I hope he's okay, even though I stabbed him in the tummy. And, Peter goes over. He's like, hey, you doing, Peter? And he's like, Jesus, Captain Stacy. He's like, listen, I don't feel great. I feel cold. He's like, you're going to be okay, man. He's like, I don't think so. Listen, I got to ask something of you. And he's like, what is it? He's like, please watch Rescue Me. It's a really good show. Also, stay the fuck away from my daughter. You're going to be the death of her. Which is technically true. Should have stayed away from her, chat. And then he dies. Now, in the comics, Captain Stacy does die. The circumstances of which are quite tragic, actually. Spider-Man does blame himself for the death of Captain Stacy. In the comics, it was this arc featuring Dr. Octopus. Spider-Man invents this kind of nano-webbing where it confuses the arms, like it specifically hacks into the arms of Dr. Octopus and makes them go erratic, so he has no control of them, and then Spider-Man's able to defeat him. However, at one point, the arms are going erratic, and he hits, like, the side of a building, and debris falls, and fucking hits Captain Stacy. Spider-Man's like, oh, shit. He then goes to Captain Stacy, who is basically dying because he's, been bludgeoned by debris. And Captain Stacy's like, Peter, take care of her. Please take care of Gwen. Acknowledging that he's always known that Peter was Spider-Man and acknowledging that I know you love my daughter. Please take care of her. Which is so sad because then we obviously have the iconic death of Gwen Stacy via the Green Goblin. It's like, holy fucking shit. Rescue Me is good. It's good. But Peter's like, well, I'm not going to watch Rescue Me, obviously. And even though it's a good show. And but your daughter's so hot, but he made a promise. He made a promise, and we get the big old, actually, it's that night. It's that night. And Peter goes back home, and Aunt May's like, Peter, where have you been, Peter? I've been calling you. And he's like, I'm sorry, Aunt May, I'm in a lot of pain. I thought this is when she figured out he was Spider-Man. I guess not, because he's all, I got the eggs, though. He did get the eggs. She's like, I don't give a fuck about the eggs, Peter. Come here, Peter. And she hugs him. They all cry and stuff. And then we get this sad montage of Captain Stacy's funeral, and it's all blue and gray, which I usually is. And Peter's like watching from the cathedral, the funeral, the proceedings, and Gwen's looking up in the sky, looking for him, and he's always hiding and stuff. Eventually, she goes and confronts him at his house, and she's like, it was my dad's funeral today. And he's like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I wasn't there. She's like, why weren't you there? Even fucking Flash Thompson was there, and he's an asshole. Where were you, Peter? He's like, I'm sorry. It's complicated. And she goes, don't you love me? Don't you feel anything for me? He's like, you're hot, Gwen. Of course I do. With the power that I have, there's a responsibility to it. I don't know what the fuck Uncle Ben said earlier. It was word salad, but I something like that. Something like that, Gwen. He's like, well, I'll see you in school, I guess. And so she goes to school. He goes to school. At this point. And May's like, Peter. And he's like, what? He's like, Peter, you're gonna let that hot piece of ass just leave? I want grandchildren, Peter. So you go after that girl, and you start making some babies, Peter. And he's like, all right, Aunt May. And so it's the next day at school, and he goes in, it's like English class, and this fucking English teacher says, now, according to these experts, there's only 10 stories that there actually are, and that there's no other kind of stories that you can write. But I disagree. There is another story. It's the story of the promise and how the promise can be broken. And that has great importance. And then Peter's like, it's very weird, where he whispers in Gwen's ear, he's sitting behind her, he goes, and promises are those kind of promises that are broken are like the best. And then it ends. And then it's like, okay. And it's the Amazing Spider-Man. So he's like, I'm going to break my promise because, one, you're hot. And two, Aunt May wants grandbaby. So we got to get a working. So fuck your dad. Fuck rescue me. Let's get to the fucking. And that, my friends, is the Amazing Spider-Man. Or is it? Because then after the credits, the initial one's the mid-credit stinger, we then cut to Dr. Kirk Connors, who's been incarcerated in Rikers because he was a lizard man. And he's there, and he's sitting in his cell all sad, and then he is met by the Gentleman, who is a character not originally created in the comics yet. The Gentleman was actually in a series of Spider-Man novels. And he's like this shadowy figure who works for other villains, and he's supposed to be the guy that sets up, I guess he's an agent of the Oscorp, and he's supposed to be one of the people in charge of creating the Sinister Six. That was the plan. And he's like, what did you tell the boy, Peter Parker? He's like, you will stay away from Peter Parker. He has nothing to do with this. Leave him alone. Let him live his life. It's not his choice. It is his destiny. Are you Palpatine? And then we cut. Chat. And that, my friends, is my scene by scene breakdown to the Amazing Spider-Man, chat. The 2012 Spider-Man reboot. As I said before, I feel like this movie's just kind of spinning its wheels, showing stuff we've already seen, except not as good. There are some highlights. Like, I really do like the relationship between Andrew Garfield and Gwen Stacy. I wish there was more of those scenes. I like when they're together. It feels really real. It feels the thing. Probably because they were actually a couple back in the day. And that is clearly showcased on screen. I like that. They should have leaned into that more to me. Outside of that, Nothing. I mean, there's maybe occasionally an interesting action scene, like the school action scene. I like the high school action scene with the lizard. That's fun. Outside of that, Chad, it's just kind of disappointing. It's just disappointing to me. Not a lot going on for it. And like the whole thing about the mystery of like the story that's never been told. The parents, like, they barely touch on that. They touch on it in the beginning, initially, and then the very end. And after that, nothing in between. It's like, what the, okay, so I just saw the regular origin again, just a slightly altered version. And I know they get into more of it in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, obviously they do. But even then, it's just like, I never felt interested in that mystery with his parents. Like, I just don't really care personally. And so I'm just kind of like, all right, well, until the next one, I guess. And we got the next one, and well, that's what it is. It's fine. It's okay. It's not awful. It's not terrible. But there's a lot of missteps in it. It's just, on the DT scale, chat, to me, it's the very definition of like a rental, like a plain old generic rental. Or maybe like even a low rental, chat. Maybe even like a low rental. It's just like, yeah, this is not great. This is not great. It's a disappointing movie, chat. Yeah, his parents are spies. His parents, no, we see the parents. We do see the parents, but they just don't do anything with them. We see them in the second one too. Yeah, and the other thing too, the movie's it just feels undercooked. A lot of things feel undercooked. The lizard feels undercooked. The relationship between Peter and Aunt May and Uncle Ben feels undercooked. Some characters just forgotten. Like, so Irfan Khan, Chad, he exits the movie after the bridge scene. He originally comes back in. You can even find trailers of him in other scenes, and where the lizard kills him later on. I think like Peter's supposed to find his head in like a sink or something. But they cut all that out. They cut all of Kirk Connor's wife out. They cut his son out. And I'm like, you needed these scenes in here. And you're just kind of stuck with a lackluster film, in my opinion. Of course, I think to me, it's weird bit of trivia. The guy who plays the gentleman was the guy holding the gun that killed Brandon Lee on The Crow. Oh, shit. Quit acting for years because he was so traumatized he came back to these movies and then he died. Oh, wow. God damn. Sorry to hear that. Well, good for him. He came back to do that. Yeah. He doesn't get a lot to do. Forgot 90% of the movie. Whoo, boy. It's a hell of a ride. I hope you liked the review. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. I appreciate your support, chat. Appreciate your support, my friends. And now, we're going to be transitioning over to some gameplay. Chat, taking some It Takes Two. I got to take a brief break. Just give me a minute to get situated. And we'll do it in a bit. Just checking a few things out. Drops your roots house. So, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I always get like a little nervous, like, oh, do people like the way I'm describing these movies? I'm glad you like them, man. Thank you. I'm just doing some quick things here. Did you see the article? People trying to sell Spider-Man tickets for us? I saw that. I wish I bought a ticket so I could have sold it for that much money. I wish I should have. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I guess there are people out there that would do that. That'd be amazing. Here's 10 biddies. I gotta go to bed. Now we're all at work. No, I understand, Chris here. Sleep well, man. Thank you for the 10 biddies. Thank you for the fun facts. But, Chad, we're going to go ahead and jump into some It Takes Two in just a bit. Like I said, I'm just going to... Oh, Lord. I need a drink. After that review, I need a drink, my friends. So, please, entertain yourselves amongst yourselves. I'll be right back. Stick around.